All right, welcome to Now This Is Podcasting. I'm your host, Connor, and I have my co-host, Jaden, here.
Yee-yee.
And our producer, McKinnon.
What's up?
And former guest, Calvin.
Thank you for having me on.
And I hope that this cheery opening music has put you in the mood, because we're talking about a cheery movie today. We're talking about Pixar's Up.
You think it's a cheery movie?
I mean, it's a kid's movie. It's a fun movie.
It's pretty sad.
It ends well.
Yeah, I mean, it's
sad.
All's well that ends well.
I think every Pixar movie and most of the Disney stuff that's come out, the like new animated stuff, has had like a serious themes in it, something that like the adults watching it can like relate to and be like, oh, this is like a real thing. But
yeah, someone died in this movie.
but there's
Someone
still
dies in every Disney movie,
Okay.
especially.
Yeah.
it's a house floating around on balloons. It's a cheery movie. Okay, stop it.
It's really dangerous when he's
I mean,
up there.
unless
what are you
you're
talking
thinking about it.
So before we get into the movie, I wanna do a really quick shout out.
Shout out.
So I was checking our Spotify metrics the other day, just diving
Fancy.
deep into the analytics, and I saw that we have one download from a fan in the UK, and so I want to give a big shout out to our one UK fan because now we're officially an international podcast. Let's hear it, boys.
Thank you. Now we know we've
Let's
made it.
fucking go!
we did it. We
Let's
can
hear it.
stop
We did
now.
it.
We did it.
Yeah,
So-
the cruel irony is it's gonna come out that it was just a misclick.
Oh man,
No, Calvin, he
care.
downloaded the whole thing, all right?
All right. Well, send us an email and let us know that it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah. So again, shout out to that fan. If you want to email us, I would love to send you like a shirt, maybe just our first ever merch, and you could be Now This Is Podcasting's first international fan. We'll send you something, and so email us at nowthisispodcasting100, the number like 100 at gmail.com. That's again, this is Now This Is Podcasting 100 at gmail.com, and yeah, I mean. If you hear this and you want a free shirt, we'll
Or you can
send
just
one. Yeah.
comment on the video,
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah, or comment on the YouTube. video.
Anybody that uses that email.
Yeah, no, it's just,
I mean,
so-
we're not really putting ourselves in too big of a financial risk to say that.
yeah.
So
I suppose, yeah, you could lie, but yeah, if you're the one UK fan, let us know, and yeah, we'll send you something out.
I
Oh,
mean,
you
if,
have-
if
well, I
it's
guess you
someone
have
in
to say-
America, they're going to give us the wrong address. Like,
Yeah,
you're an
exactly.
idiot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I suppose there's that.
If it's not something goofy like Melbourne and Shire or whatever, I'll know. I'll know.
3221
If I can't
Wallaby
tell-
Way.
If I can't see the accent in the freaking email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, yeah, just big shout out to that
Yeah,
one guy.
If it doesn't look like Scottish tweets, then we're not gonna believe you.
Dude,
Yeah, if it
Scottish
doesn't say
tweets are-
cunt in it, it's not. You're not getting anything.
Okay, this is a review for the Pixar film Up, and we can't say cunt in it.
We've already sweared more in this than we had our entire lighthouse. Like,
God. Okay. But yeah, big shout out to that guy. Thank you for making
Shout
this
out.
officially an
Or
international
girl.
podcast. Oh
Guy
yeah,
or
yeah,
girl.
guy or girl, whoever you are,
Or whatever you choose to be.
whomever you are, let us know,
Ooh,
and
whomever.
we'll get back to you. So okay, so now we're talking about Pixar's 2009 film.
2000 now.
Yeah,
The pinnacle of Pixar.
directed by Pete Docter.
and so this movie is starting off our series where we talk about our favorite movies, and so this was Jaden's pick for his favorite movie. Maybe not, I mean, it could be top 3, whatever. Because, when it gets to my favorite, I don't know if the one I pick is like.
Yeah,
I don't know that I can narrow it down
Hey,
to one.
you asked me when I was drunk, so.
Yeah. This is still like, I mean, I know it's one of your favorites.
Oh
You
yeah,
talk
I
about
love
yeah.
it. I love this movie.
So this was gonna start out our series for that. So I want to get Jaden's first impression. Like, I want to know, why is this one of your favorite movies?
Yeah, why are we here?
Number one thing. So I love movies that I get emotionally tied into, that, like make me cry and smile and things like that. And this movie gives me all kinds of emotions from the beginning to the end. And of course, there's a fucking talking dog, which is I mean, there's multiple talking dogs. There's only one that I give a shit about, and that's Doug. And that's the number one reason I love this movie is because of that dog.
Did you know that have you checked how the dog's name is spelled?
No.
It's D-U-G.
Yeah, I
Oh,
noticed
like-
that.
like he
yeah,
dug?
when you turn the subtitles on, I was
Yeah.
like, why did they misspell that? I'm like, oh no,
Because he
they-
digs like
yeah,
a
they
dog.
keep
Yeah.
saying that.
But it's Doug D-U-G, not D-O-U-G.
That's
like,
awesome.
Just
And
a
also-
little fun
Yeah.
fact.
And Russell's a cool kid. Reminds me of myself when I was a kid.
So why Up though, rather than any other Pixar film?
So I think that Up does things that other Pixar movies try to do, but better. So like, for instance, in the beginning, you really get emotionally tied to the wife, even though it's a character that's lost right away. Like, which is something they did in Finding Nemo, but I didn't give a shit about Coral or whatever Marlon's wife's name was. And so they gave me an emotional tie to this lady. And there's some things like that throughout the movie that I think they just do better than any other Pixar movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
And also the animation's awesome.
I do, yeah. We can maybe talk about that more later because I have interesting notes about the animation. It seems like a little different than other Pixar stuff, kind of. So, but yeah. So a little more background on the movie. It was directed, like Calvin mentioned it earlier, by Peter Docter, and it had a box office of 175 million domestic, 293 million worldwide, and Peter Docter also he was one of the directors on Soul, Inside Out, and Monsters Inc. Because Pixar kind of does a sort of, I guess, like conglomerate of directors. It's not. It's sort
they
of like
usually
one.
rotate.
It's sort of like one story driver for it, but like there are multiple directors who like take parts in like different parts of the movie and kind of drive different scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
it's weird that they call them directors because it would really be better and be more apt to call them executive producers.
yeah, and which is funny because if you look on any of these people's IMDb pages, it says like they're a executive producer on every Pixar movie. Like so, it's not like one guy, but this is kind of the guy. I guess he was the most like driving this movie to be made the most. So I thought it was worth noting. But yeah, he's been a part of a bunch of Pixar movies.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask real quick. So when you see these movies in theaters, they always play like a short before it.
Mm.
Did you guys watch? Because I just watched this on Disney Plus, so it doesn't automatically play the short. Did you guys watch the short
No.
before watching this?
I did not.
No, I did not.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Me
Oh,
either.
well, dang. Okay, well, I'm gonna run the show on this one. All right. So the short that opens up before this is called Partly Cloudy. And,
I have seen this one.
Yeah. So it's like a stork. Storks delivering babies. It's not just like baby people. It's like baby animals and stuff. And it's kind of neat because it's like the clouds like make all the little critters, and then there's like one storm cloud that makes like crappy animals, like makes like an alligator. And there's this one stork that always goes to the storm cloud, and he like keeps getting like beat up by all these like nasty animals. Like he gets like a porcupine and it's like stabbing him through the bag and everything, like as he's delivering it and everything. It's just a fun little short. I don't know if it was meant to be this way, but like later on in the movie, there's a part where like the house is flying into all these clouds, and it looks like really nice clouds, and he's like, "Oh, cumulonimbus," and then all of a sudden it becomes like storm clouds and it's all crappy. I don't know if like the short ever has any tie into the movie or
Yeah,
like
I'm
if
sure
it ever matters, but I thought it was neat. Like I was watching, I was like, "Oh, we watched storm clouds earlier. Now it's storm in the movie." I just thought it was neat, but it's a fun little movie, and I was watching, I was like, "Who delivers stork babies?"
No one. They just exist. They
Yeah.
are not
They're-
born, nor do they die.
Yeah, they're the gods of our world.
Yeah.
The storks are an immortal being.
They arrive precisely when they mean to.
Their only purpose is to live as a delivery device
Yeah.
for our offspring. Okay, that was my fun.
Yeah,
But
they're more
it's
like cherubim than they are
Yeah.
like animals.
It's a fun little short. I love the Pixar shorts. I think it's awesome that they play them before the movies.
Yeah, it's great.
Because like I watched Inside Out in theaters, and I love the short Lava. It's like my
It's
favorite
so
I don't
one.
know if I've seen that.
It's
one.
so
Oh my God.
good.
It's
It's
the one
adorable.
with the big bird who sits on the power line with all the little
Monsters,
I think
birds.
it's before Toy.
I think
is
it's
it Toy
Monsters,
Story?
Inc.
But it's just like all
That
the
one's
birds
my
are chirping
favorite,
at him,
yeah.
and they're all mad at him, and he's
all,
like,
"Meh."
blah 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 blah. Like it's that's what I'm saying. I just love the shorts. So I to set the mood for watching Up, because I hadn't seen this before. So to set the tone, set the mood, I wanted to watch the short that came out with it. So if you're interested, Partly Cloudy is the short that comes out before, and so definitely check it out if you haven't already. And so I guess like we're gonna get into the movie now.
So speaking of the Pixar shorts, the beginning of this movie has always felt like it could have been a Pixar short. The sequence with Mr. Fredrickson and his wife, it feels very much like a short to me.
You're talking about the montage of them like kind of
Yeah.
growing
Like
up.
Yeah, it's almost like a whole movie packed into 20
Exactly.
minutes.
I agree with you because it does. It and I think what's cool about it, there's like no dialogue through it, and it tells a really good story. There's a different short. It's a short where like a mom is making dumplings.
Oh, bow.
Yes, that is the one. And there's no dialogue through any of it, and it's a really cute story. It's a really fun story about like a mother and her son, and kind of like losing their connection to each other, and then he comes back, and it's a really heartfelt short, and it's like no dialogue. And I got like the same vibes from like the opening sort of montage to Up,
Yeah.
where there's like no talking, and it's just like it tells a really good story still.
Yeah, you know what's interesting to think about is a big part of the emotional pull of movies in general, but especially Pixar, is a really good score. But I think what's so great about how emotionally attached you get to these films with Pixar is the music is just there as an ancillary. You could take the music out and you would still have the same emotional punch because they just have an amazing way of hitting the emotion without saying the thing. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like when Russell is like talking about like I like that curb. Like it says
So much.
it
dude.
says
Oh
it
my
says
God.
it says everything. Like you feel that. You don't even know what's going on necessarily in his life. Is his dad dead? Is his dad divorced? Does he just not care? Like what is he adopted because Phyllis isn't his mom? There's so much uncertainty there, but we don't need to. We just need to know that that curb feels.
Okay, yeah, no, I get
And
that.
that's what's so
I have like
beautiful
different
about them.
opinions on Russell and the dad, but anyways, we'll keep going on that. But
Interesting.
I like the, I do agree with what you're saying. Is it McKinnon was saying is it feels like it could have been just a short on its own, and it would have been good. It has like cool little moments, like when they're like just married, and Carl's like trying to go up the hill to get to the tree,
Yeah.
and he's like slow to get up, and like Ellie is like already at the top, and then that's when you kind of hit the sad point, is where you get the inverse of that, and it's like now they're older, and,
Yeah, it's
and
like
Ellie can't make it
That
up the hill.
whole montage thing is also just foreshadowing for the whole entire movie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah. I think there's so my sort of problem with the movie is that I think it hits its emotional peak in that montage, and I think
I
it.
completely disagree with that.
Okay,
Wow,
well, see,
yeah.
and that's why
Yeah.
we're talking about.
I'd say I disagree with that too. But,
Wow,
but
okay.
I
go,
think
but
the
go
emotional
ahead.
peak
Go
is Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go-
because I think it never quite hits that note again. I think it's like I felt the most during this movie in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and that
So-
was, and after that, I kind of like
So that emotion, like in the first part of the movie, is like yeah, I don't know, it is like a very high level of emotion, but you get almost no closure from it, which is my thing. Is where out throughout the movie is like where that peak of emotion finally comes, like the other peaks of emotion through the movie come together and they like connect.
I think you're right. There isn't that level of closure. When I talk to people about this movie, they're usually remembering the opening sequence, and that's why I think Connor's saying that like that's like the peak of it. Because when most people
It's
talk
the most
about
famous part about the movie.
that's what you see people
Yeah.
talk about on Facebook and stuff like that. Like when this movie came out, people were talking about the beginning of it
because it's great. I
it's
mean,
really great, yeah. But it feels so different from the rest of the movie, and
It
that's
does.
that's part of the reason why I feel like it's a short, because the tone is it's completely alien to the rest of the
Mhm.
movie.
It is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like I had said, I hadn't seen this movie before, but I've heard forever that like, the beginning's so sad, like, oh, you gotta watch at the beginning, so sad. Like no one is like, oh man, like Russell is so funny in this, or like Doug is like a quirky little character in this, and oh, you gotta watch it for the bad guy. Like no one said that to me.
I
Like,
remember the bad
who-
guy's name.
who said you should watch for the bad guy?
that's what
He's
that's
saying no one said
the
that.
point
yeah.
the point I'm making is when people tell me to watch.
Oh, I
this
thought people
movie-
were saying like, yeah, you got to watch it for the quirky little
No.
kid and the dog. And
No,
I
the
was
the
like,
point I'm
those
making
are
is
weird.
no one says that. Everyone just tells me, "Oh, the beginning. Oh, you gotta watch it. The beginning's so good. Oh, it's so sad." Like that's
Well,
all
it's
I ever heard.
fantastic.
But that's why I feel like this movie never kind of hits that note again emotionally, is because like it's just the beginning is like really good, and then the rest of the movie is like, to me, like kind of pedestrian, but it's still a fine movie. It was after hearing those kind of reviews from people around me, like I totally get why everyone latched onto the beginning, because I kind of think that's the main kind of
That's the main
emotional.
thing people remember.
It's the peak of the movie.
It's
to me.
it's really concentrated emotion, whereas a lot of the other, there are moments throughout Pixar movies where you really feel something, but it was like the entire Pixar formula put into what was probably a 2.5 minute montage. So every emotion that you would have felt in a typical Pixar put into 3 minutes.
It's an 8-minute montage.
Whatever.
I really doubt that.
I wrote it down, so
No, not from when they first got married to when she dies.
I count when they first met.
So when
Yeah,
they're
that's-
kids, that's not a
not- that-
montage
but
because they're
yeah,
talking to each other.
That's not a Hollywood montage.
I'm just being difficult.
All right. Well, it's
So are we.
it's irritating.
Speaking of when they met, I love that he's like in the theater and he sees that like Spirit of Adventure thing, and he's like, I love that he puts the goggles over his glasses. I
Yeah.
think it's so funny.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and then he's walking home and he hears her like yelling about like, oh, we're going on this adventure, and she says this really funny line. She's like, visibility unlimited. It's so funny.
Even though she's talking to a boarded up
Yeah,
window.
it's so funny. Like this movie
I
is
guess
not.
suppose like if you think it in mathematical terms, it's undefined.
Yeah.
But still,
It's this movie is not short on like fun lines. Like there was definitely, like I said, I think the rest of the movie is kind of pedestrian. It's not like I didn't enjoy it. There was definitely parts throughout the movie I was definitely like laughing. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like that's funny. Like that's a good little line. That's a good little scene. I just think, as a whole, it didn't like hit all the beats I wanted. But yeah, I love that their little introduction when they're kids. I think it's really good.
It's part's adorable. Really gives the audience someone to like, which is Ellie, and you see the perspective from
from Carl.
Carl, from Carl, seeing why he likes this person, and that's what makes the audience like them, because you're seeing it not necessarily like you're kind of from his point of view.
For sure,
Yeah.
that's a good point to make. Is
Yeah.
like you get attached to Ellie because Carl's getting attached to Ellie, and so
Mhm.
yeah, she's a great character, which is no bummer that like as we know in the montage, like she passes away, and then there's also like other struggle because they find out they can't have kids, and
Yeah,
so there's a
that
lot
part's
of
awesome.
there's
He's
a
just
lot
like,
of
let's go have
Yeah,
fucking
that's-
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Like
think
he's
that's
breaking his leg and doing dumb shit.
yeah, but yeah. So that's to me why I think this bucks the trend of a normal narrative and why it works is because you have to kind of readjust your expectations for what you're going to get out of this film. Like think of the opening montage as being as compared to the Notebook. There is hey, this is how we met, this is how we grew old.
Are you talking about the fucking movie Notebook?
Yeah, I'm talking about
Okay, well,
that.
I've never seen that.
Oh, okay. So most people who have know what I'm talking about. But like traditional love story. But
Most
told
dudes who
from-
have girlfriends have seen that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
go on.
The
Go on.
ladies out
culturally-
there, I am single.
Yeah, culturally relevant to those in relationships. But so compare the opening that montage to the story of the Notebook. It's a pretty typical love story told from the perspective of two old people looking back at their lives, and what is we always what we focus on as culturally important in stories is how they met. It's the love story. It's everything coming up together, and then you get married, and then that's the rest of your life, and everything's good after that. What I love about Up is the theme of the film is that life is never over. There is still time to be, to do, to learn, and I like the idea that it's a term called post-traumatic growth rather than post-traumatic stress disorder. How some people respond to high stress events in their life is really interesting. Like everyone's going to go through something like that, so it can either turn into a complex, or it can be this intense growth period in your life where suddenly you're learning more, you're seeing things differently. And I love that that's what they decided to do here. Like let's give everybody what they want. We know that we can do that really well. We can talk about a love story, pull all of the heartstrings, but now he's old, and in narrative terms, most of the time people don't care anymore. You're old.
Yeah,
You-
the story's ended.
Yeah,
you probably
you've lived
yeah.
everything, but how they go from there is what is so great.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so great.
because
If
it's cool because he looks at that picture they have painted on the wall and he does the whole like cross your heart thing, and that's when he decides to like go on this adventure.
yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, so it is like his life's not over. He's gonna go on another adventure.
By the way, let's do this that way right now.
Yeah.
The reason they never went there is 100% his fault for picking a dumbass career. A balloon salesman? How the fuck do you think you're going to South America on that salary, dude? It's not happening.
Is that his career the whole movie?
Yeah.
I just saw I just know in the like opening he's like got the balloon stand at the zoo or
I
the
mean,
park
I'm
or something. I
assuming,
don't know.
considering the fact that he has like thousands of balloons attached to his house, he's still a balloon salesman.
I just always thought that was like kind of just foreshadowing to set up the fact that they're
I'm sure it
going to
was.
use balloons later, but
Yeah.
I didn't know that was his whole. If that is his whole career, you're right. A bad choice.
Right. And honestly, like I think it's interesting, and I don't think he's really going to live there, it's basically suicide. Like he sees no point in his life anymore. He's about to lose his house. He's a menace to society. Last ditch effort. Like how can we kid friendly convey the idea of suicide?
Oh my God. Okay.
Jesus Christ!
I don't think that was it.
Well, I think it is because when he blows up all the balloons and now he's got Russell on his porch. He's like, I stayed up all night blowing up all those balloons for nothing. And I
don't
think
know,
that is so poignant because now he has to take care of someone.
I
Because
still
there's, like,
don't think he's committed.
What's he gonna do? When he gets there,
Okay,
He
so
made
has,
a way to steer the house, Calvin.
he has no plumbing, no electricity.
I
He
think-
has no food. He's on a giant rock
I know he doesn't have
outcropping.
food.
He's gonna sit on the porch and die
I think
and
you can
watch
shit.
the waterfall and die.
I think
that's
his
the whole
plan
point.
his plan is to live out the rest of his days there,
Which is about like 24 hours.
but that's different than like killing yourself.
Okay,
You know.
so
like,
I watched this movie with my little sister and my mom and my brother-in-law, and my little sister brought up, she was like, so is he just gonna die
Shout
there?
out, Nin.
Because she said that, she was like, so is he
Yeah,
just?
of course he's gonna die there.
I know, but
that's
she was like,
that's
she was like,
him, like giving
yeah.
not giving up, but he's like resigning himself to
Never
that
gonna
idea,
give
which,
you up.
which is fine.
the
That's
point
the
the point I made to her, I was like, it's a kids movie. I don't think they're concerned with like his food rations. Like
Yeah.
that's not the point of the movie. Is not as how is he gonna live
He
there.
was though, because Kevin was eating all of his food. Remember?
Yeah, he was getting upset about it, which means that he wasn't going there to kill himself.
Yeah, but he
Like,
knew
he
was
had
gonna
food
die.
I just
rations.
still, I just think that I think it's fun to take a complex lens and look at these movies. It's a kids movie. I don't think that the point of the story is not how is he going to live on Paradise Island or Paradise
Falls.
Paradise Falls. The point of the movie is not like how is he going to survive that. The point of the movie is him getting there, him like fulfilling this kind of like sort of like last dying wish to his wife that he was finally going to do this and they were going to go there and they were going to have their house there. The point of the movie is the journey there, not how is he going to cultivate food, like how is he where's his plumbing at, where's his, that's not the point of the movie.
Saying you can
It's
shit in
still,
the woods.
it's still a kids movie and
Yeah.
it's that's not the point.
But
So
it's,
I
it's
get
more
It's a
complex than
family
that.
movie.
That's the thing. Like it is as complex as I'm gonna go and get and take my house to the edge of this cliff. But it's also, there's still more things to do now.
I
like,
don't-
because that's the thing. It's like think of the house like as literal baggage. He's literally dragging his past around because he can't move on because he doesn't think that there is more life to live. He's running around when they're in the storm.
And he keeps
catching-
talking to Ellie the whole
Yeah,
time.
talking to Ellie, catching her photo as it falls off the wall, catching the little bird,
Putting the chair right back in the same spot.
tied everything down because these things are so important to him that he cannot let go
And then
because
he finally
doesn't.
does.
Yeah, because there is no more life to live, and then he finally realizes
That
at
he
the
can
end-
live for Russell. But
Yeah, exactly, and that's which is
yeah.
so important considering how he never had kids growing up, and that was something
he
that
was
he
in-
could have.
Calvin, I
put
usually
himself
love
into.
your deep takes. It's still just a kids movie. Like,
But
that's-
it's
no,
not.
It's not a kids movie, and that is what is so great.
It's not a kids
about
movie. I don't
Pixar.
think a single Pixar movie is a kids movie.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think Pixar is one of the most culturally relevant ways that we tell our stories to kids because it introduces really complex adult issues
I agree with that.
into like a way to feel these things. We don't need to explain why you need to go about life this way. It's like you feel these emotions and like there's so much of this that when you get caught up in all of these characters living out what could be in some ways they're not normal stories, they're not like they're possible, but the humanness at the base level of the story is something that we all connect with so strongly. And it's not your typical princess story. Like, you're weird. Everybody hates you, but you're gonna find your man. You're gonna be okay. You're you're
Yeah, this
being
isn't
hunted.
fucking Aladdin.
Yeah, like that's the basis of like all of the other Disney movies. The Pixar movies are so much different and more complex.
Yeah,
and
like
that's
A
what's
Bug's
so-
Life about the working class standing up to their oppressors.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I get that there are adult themes in the movie. I just think if you want to pick apart the narrative and be like, oh well, they didn't talk about his food stores and like how he's going to live there. I don't think that's important to the narrative. That's
I
the
don't.
point,
I don't
that's the
think
point
so
I'm making.
either. No,
I
yeah,
don't think
you're
I
right
don't I don't
there.
think it is.
Yeah.
But like clearly
The
you're
narratives
letting
can definitely
me
have
spot
adult
that.
themes within them. What I'm saying is when you pick apart little things in it, that it's like that's not what the movie's about. That's my point I'm trying to make. And to
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
not Castaway.
yeah.
We're not worried about his food rations.
and
here.
we're dude, we're getting so deep already. I before we get like more into the narrative and all that, I want to talk about the animation
It's great.
because I thought it was interesting. I think there's like there's obviously a look that Pixar has, and I think you are familiar with it. But when I was watching this, everything about Carl's character is like not Pixar animation. Like there's a part where he like shuts off his alarm clock. This is when he's like an old guy, and his fingers are like sharp angles. They're like all 90-degree angles. They're like
Yeah.
squares.
Mhm.
His ears are
His
really
Yeah,
jaw.
that was
jaw.
another note I made. Yeah, his ears are all like and he's really square jawed, and I thought it was cool because there's not really other characters designed in the same way. I think everyone else sort of falls into like that kind of your regular kind of Pixar character. You know, it's like a you know what you're used to seeing. Like you know how Pixar designs their characters, and I thought it was cool that like Carl's to me is designed a pretty different way.
Because he's a square.
Yeah.
That is such a good point.
That's why he's like that. And Ellie's like, that's why his chair is square, and Ellie's isn't. And like, that's why.
Oh, that's
Because he's a square, yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool like.
I was too busy
I guess I
crying to
didn't-
notice any of
Oh
that.
wow.
Yeah.
No, I do. Okay, no, I like that. Because I think there's like I said, there's cool bits we can all pull from the movie. And to me, I was just like, oh, the design of this guy is different, and yeah, you're
So,
right. It,
like,
it
when you
speaks to his
say-
character.
When you say like it's not typical Pixar animation, I have a problem like grasping around that because I feel like every Pixar movie is animated differently.
Mm.
I don't
Interesting.
okay, because I think like the humans in like Finding Nemo look like the humans in Toy Story. I think
Okay,
basically
that makes
yeah.
sense. I see what you're saying there. When like I guess when yeah, okay.
I guess as they
Okay.
got more technologically advanced.
yeah, I think they all kind of fall over the kind of well, the only other one I guess the one I would think is probably the most different would be like Incredibles. I think they're designed a bit different.
Yeah,
than,
that's a little bit.
But that to me is like
yeah.
kind of
So I think like they designed the humans similar when they're not the main object of the movie.
yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah, but yeah. No, I think they for the most part I think there's kind of like a trend they have. There's a design kind of because I
Yeah.
even think Soul. I think you could put a character
I
from
haven't
Soul.
seen that one yet.
Oh,
You
that's-
haven't seen
I
Soul
heard
yet?
It's very good.
Oh my gosh! What I love is like you think that this is the height of the of animation, but how like with ray tracing, like for next gen consoles, how we've started to incorporate more realistic light
right.
into animation. There's that next level of realism, even within like a cartoon space. We're like, wow, this is intense.
Right, like speaking on Soul, they dude, there's like so much effort put into like everyone's hair in that movie. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
made a big point of being like it's a big part of like black culture to like get your hair done in like a barber shop, and so they put a lot of effort into like every character's hair.
Yeah,
And
it's
so like
funny.
that's a cool part of like advancing the animation while still
Yeah.
keeping like a kind of your cartoon fun aspect.
One
to
thing
it.
I noticed about Up's animation too is they do a lot of detail in like their clothing and things like that.
That was
like,
yeah. They were challenged to create
Yeah.
realistic fabric.
Like
Yeah.
everything is like slightly fuzzy, and like you see like every detail on the rope, and it's very neat.
It's
and
kind
how
of
it
neat to
moves.
go back and watch like Toy Story, and I think like kind of if you just like go from continuing to watch like Pixar movies as they come out, I think it's like the changes are subtle enough that you just kind of are like, oh yeah, this is still looks good. This is Pixar. It's great.
And then you go
But
back,
if you go back and watch like the first one,
like,
you're
wow,
like,
Toy
oh
Story
my
looks like
god,
shit.
like
Yeah,
And that's
Andy.
I actually
Andy just has
disagree,
like pinprick hairs.
I still think it looks
obviously
good,
it's
but-
great, especially for coming out was like 1996
Dude,
or something
yeah,
like that.
right.
Yeah.
But it's cool to go back and be like, wow, like look at how it used to be, and like and I think just because these movies come out so often, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, it's another Pixar.
And
like,
like you expect Pixar to
Yeah.
be just fantastic at their animation.
or like even like what is it called? Inside Out. You know the Joy character.
Yeah.
She's like kind of she's not like a hard outline. She has like kind of a fuzzy outline, and
Mhm.
like each character kind of has their own outline. It's very. I really like the animation. If you take the time to pay attention to it, I think Pixar does a good job of kind of like subtly like having kind of like their own kind of tone or whatever to their characters in each movie. I just thought Up, especially with Carl, I thought they took kind of like they made a very conscious decision to make his character look very different than kind of the average animation for
Yeah.
Pixar.
So speaking of the character design for Carl, whenever Carl was next to Russell, it was really jarring to me because Carl's the old guy, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl has so much detail on his face. Like at a point, he has like 5 o'clock shadow. There's so much detail in like the boxiness of his ears and stuff like that. And Russell has like no detail on him.
He does. He's just fat.
He's just around.
That's not a facial
He's just
detail
a-
though.
It
He's
It is a
just-
facial detail. If you're fat, your face is fat.
He just
okay?
has like smooth skin with like no
because
details
he's
or
a
anything.
fat child.
Yeah, he's
Well-
an egghead.
It was just something I noticed and I couldn't stop noticing.
I
that's
wonder.
all.
I wonder if that's maybe to kind of like juxtapose the two animations. So it's
Probably,
like
yeah.
like we said, like Carl, Jaden's like part of his character is he's a square and all of
Yeah.
his stuff is very square, and Russell's
A round boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but-
dirty throughout
yeah.
the film.
Is
His face
there-
gets dirtier.
Their two characters are really different, and so it would make sense to kind of animate them a different way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's just something I
yeah.
noticed and I couldn't stop.
No, I totally agree with you. They do look very different, which is I think kind of that.
It was
kind of-
probably intentional.
yeah,
for
that's-
Yeah.
sure.
Well, you can probably think of too, like all of Russell's. All of Carl's details, all of the lines and wrinkles as being like a part of it. His lived experience, whereas Russell's more tabula rasa, like completely
Smooth. 'Cause
blank.
He hasn't
and
gone through
sweet.
shit.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
nothing's happened. But as the dirt has accumulated, he's had some experiences and lived something, and that's probably reading way too much.
Ooh, no, I like it,
But
Calvin.
These are not
like
kids'
it.
movies, so I think it's a valid take.
Yeah, no, I like that idea.
I'm over here smirking at Calvin like you're reading way too much into this.
Yeah, well,
I
you're
thought it
wearing
was great.
sunglasses right now, so I can't take you seriously either.
So
Fine then.
another thing I wanted to bring up about the animation, because I feel like a lot of the Pixar movies they have like these really vibrant, robust kind of settings. Especially like, I mean, if you look like the newest Toy Story 4, is not my favorite movie,
No, all the Toy Story sequels suck besides the second one.
but
I
but
disagree.
but the setting they're in is like there's so much going on. They're at a carnival. There's just like the frame is full of things to look at, and then you watch Up and it's like a cityscape for a lot of it. And it just feels like kind of copy paste the same thing, and then they get into the clouds, and then they get to like a rocky area, and then they get to kind of a jungle area, and then they're in a rocky area. It felt very sparse. The movie felt like it didn't really put a lot of effort into its environment to me. And so as far as like, to me, that's a part of the animation. I don't think that I think there wasn't enough effort put into like the settings they were in, I guess.
Disagree with that.
Yeah, I
a
think
lot,
I think it had more to do with how much detail they were putting into the balloons.
They spent all their money on
They-
balloons.
I mean, it's really hard to model every individual balloon.
Their balloon
and
budget
make
was huge, so they
Yeah.
couldn't make rocks.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
they made rocks just fine.
No. My problem is not the detail of the rocks or the detail of the junk. I didn't think the settings were very robust.
They're not very
That was my problem.
cinematic or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, it's.
I
it's-
agree, yeah.
It's not a huge nitpick, but I was just like, it feels like they kind of, like in old movies, they'll kind of like they'll use the same set, but they'll film it from like a different angle. So it'll be like, or like the Scooby-Doo movies where they're just running through the same. It's just like the same kind of slide going
Yeah.
over and over again, as they're running through the house, and it's the same door they're running
I
past.
see what
or
you're
it's the
saying here.
same,
Yeah.
It's the same, haunted trees they're running past. That's
Like
how I
you're
felt.
saying not every tree is an individual tree.
It just
might be.
felt a lot like, okay, I've seen this rock formation they walked past before, or I've seen this tree there. It felt like, it just felt like there wasn't as much effort put into like the environment they were in
Yeah.
as much as which the point of the movie is not the environment, but
Well,
it seems like other Pixar movies have had a lot of attention put into like the setting they're in. I felt like this one was lacking on that.
Yeah, and I think it's also a reflection of what he was going to a place called Paradise Falls, and as foreshadowing as what really the whole point of the film was is like you're not going to a paradise, you're on a rock outcropping where nothing is beautiful, and like you've just achieved something that you thought, but it's not necessarily the thing that you needed.
Yeah, I guess like the most detailed part in like the background of the movie would be in the house.
The house or the blimp in Muntz's blimp
Yeah.
is I thought, because that was cool, like when there's
Yeah.
all the skeletons, and then they're in the dining room and there's all this stuff he's got in there. Those were the scenes where I was looking for stuff in the background, because like Pixar puts all those
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
all those little Easter eggs in there, and I was like looking around for them, and the majority of the movie, it's like, oh, they're around rocks and it's foggy, or they're in a jungle and there's nothing going on. So that was my little
Yeah.
bit.
Your
Well,
little in-tip nitpick.
Yeah, and I think that's like is that a new show?
That one really got you, dude.
I was reading something, and then Jaden said that, and it surprised me.
But I think it's reflected in what Russell says. Like, I just didn't expect the wilderness to be so wild.
Yeah.
And I think that it's the naivete of there's adventure out there, of coming of age from of being a child and having expectations for how life is going to go, and then you actually get and to achieve what you want is difficult and sometimes not necessarily
Well,
what you always thought it would be or
It's kind of
wanted.
the whole arc of the movie is the spirit of adventure, and like what
Mhm.
Carl finds to realize is that he lived a dope ass adventure with Ellie without ever going on what he thought was an adventure. He was already going through an adventure the whole time.
And it never ended.
Yeah.
He kept thinking that, oh, we never went to Paradise Falls. We never went on our journey. And that's when he realized, like,
He's always been on a
and
journey.
it never it didn't end when Ellie died.
No.
Like, he just decided that it had.
Yeah, and we've mentioned, just talking about the movie real quick, like the actual
Just talking about the movie that
That's
we're
what we've been
here
doing
to
this whole
record?
time.
an actual
That's
scene.
what we do here.
An actual scene about the movie. We've mentioned the part where he goes through the clouds, like at the very beginning when he takes off with the house. Have you guys seen a Series of Unfortunate Events, the movie
With Jim
Jim
Carrey.
Carrey.
with Jim Carrey? Yeah.
No.
No.
I haven't. I've watched some of the series on Netflix, which is
Neil
also
Patrick Harris.
essentially my answer is still no.
Great. Calvin.
No.
We also
Crap. Well, there's a part in the movie where they go to live with Meryl Streep. She's like one of the relatives that they go
They
to
live with the Meryl Streep.
the Meryl Streep.
She-
How is this unfortunate?
And she lives on like a really rickety house over like a cliff. And there's a part where a storm hits the house, and the house like crumbles apart. There's like a bunch of things like exploding, and they have to escape this house that's falling apart in the middle of a storm. And it reminded watching that part in Up where the storm hits and like all the furniture is falling all over the place. It reminded me of Series of Unfortunate Events. But if I'm the only one who's seen the movie, then
That's right. It reminds me of the movie Twister, when there's a storm and it fucks up some other houses.
You're just taking my joke.
Yeah.
I think more people have seen Twister.
Anyways, that was just the scene that I thought was. It reminded me of another movie that I like. So
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that scene.
You like the
That's
Lemony
what,
Snicket's movie?
that's like
I
all
think
you.
that movie's really good.
That's all
yeah.
you liked about Up is how much it reminded you of a C+ movie.
I really actually don't enjoy this movie that much. I think it's incredibly overrated.
Why?
I don't
No.
understand that.
Well, we have controversial comments for later on.
I'll
I'm
reserve.
all about controversy.
I'll reserve my controversy for later then. But
Okay, so I wanna jump into, if we're getting back into more narrative. I think we're done talking about animation and everything. I want to talk about the dogs. So like,
They're the best part of the fucking movie, McKinnon.
here's an idea. They're the worst part of the movie.
You're a doofus.
so this is one thing that kind of always, and it's just a suspension of disbelief thing for me, and I think most people are cool with it. And I'm usually pretty good at suspension of disbelief, and I'm fine with having talking animals, but it's just so weird to me when like all they have is a voice communicator thing for them, but they have essentially the intellect of a human being, which is always so odd to me. Like, it's always so odd to me that that gets worked into movies. Like, somehow if a dog had the ability to talk, it would talk the same way a human did. It would react and respond in conversation the same way. And again, that's just a nitpick that I have, because it really doesn't change. It doesn't change the movie at all by having the dogs able to talk. But it
It
always
does change the movie. A big part. It's a big part
no,
of the movie.
no, but I mean, like,
It's not though.
like I don't me being mad about it or caring about it doesn't change the narrative of the movie. I still wouldn't change it. I don't know, like, that I would have done dogs with voice communicators, because to me personally,
What animal would you have used?
I wouldn't have used
Didn't
an
need to
animal
be
at
an
all. Like, I don't know.
animal.
I wouldn't have used an animal.
How would
like,
you have driven the plot, man?
You
driven the
could
plot?
use little robots or something.
How would
like-
you
Why would
sell
you use
more
robots when you could use
plushies?
talking dogs, dude?
Like I said, the narrative is fine with the minute. Like I said, it's just a personal nitpick that it's always every movie I see with a talking animal in it, that when they interact with people. So this doesn't include like other animated movies
Like Babe.
like Lion King or something like that. It doesn't bother me that the animals can talk because they only interact with other animals. So it's like that's fine with me, because like now I'm living in a movie where it's just from the animal's perspective. But with Up, I'm watching a movie from a human being's perspective, and now I have to listen to a dog talk to them like the dog has a single clue how to have a conversation with a person.
Clearly does.
Yeah,
I mean, they've been there for like.
which is great. Which is
50
great for the
years.
movie. Again, it's just a thing that I don't like seeing in movies. Like, I just don't like it, and it throws me off.
Well,
to
you
see
know,
it.
it's a kids movie, Connor. So I
It's
can't-
just a kids movie. I just thought that maybe my opinion was shared. Apparently not.
It was shared.
So
we heard it.
I
and we
was gonna-
criticized it.
Yeah,
I
It's
was gonna
fine.
say I didn't like the dogs either, mostly because the jokes that the dogs made didn't seem very like there was a lot of effort put into them. So
I'm
like
just so confused about how you both have been like, it's a kids movie. It's a kids movie. These are dumb
so
jokes.
there are a lot there are a lot of kids movies that have jokes that even adults can appreciate.
Like this movie.
Yeah.
So the joke with Doug, he's like a dumb dog who makes bad decisions and he's not the smartest dog. Right? That's like the joke. He's like a dimwit.
He's like that
I
in
think
terms
he's like
of
a dog. I don't think he's like
The
stupider than
thing
the other
is,
dogs.
Alpha, the other dog, is like really smart. He's,
Do you think so? Are they not making mistakes the entire movie?
I think that he has a higher intelligence than Doug.
I completely disagree with that.
Okay.
the point is
I think just
Doug-
you'd think that because the way
yeah.
that Doug communicates in his voice.
That too, yeah. I think that's what they're trying to show us though by having Doug talk a certain way.
Yeah.
But
Doug
then you
Doug
learn
acts-
that Doug is not stupider than the other dogs
Okay,
throughout the
I
movie.
don't think it's a term of it doesn't. It's not a matter of intellect. Doug acts like a dog, and he acts like
Sure,
a fun,
yeah.
cheery character, and the other dogs act like minions. Like
That's
that's
a-
the distinction between the
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
I don't think intellect has to deal with it,
Sure.
but they clearly the minion dogs play a different role than Doug does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also didn't. They made 3 squirrel jokes in the movie, which I didn't think any of them
Check
were
this
super
out.
funny.
Fun fact I wrote down: you don't see a single squirrel in the entire movie.
Yeah, because only a
Yeah.
dog sees them.
No one sees them. I don't think there are squirrels
There's
at
not a
all.
single
Squirrel!
Yeah.
It's
I
not.
just didn't
It's
think-
not funny
It's-
to me.
it's
not anything.
hilarious.
It's a
You
part
ever
of
see
their
a
innate
dog?
character.
You ever see a dog look at an animal? He
I don't
probably
think
thinks
I've-
that every animal
I don't
running
think I've
around
ever
is a
seen a
squirrel.
dog attack a squirrel in
Oh,
my
okay,
whole
no.
life.
Luna will try to kill every rabbit and
I've
squirrel
seen-
that she sees.
Yeah.
Prove it.
It's a big.
Go get a
it's
rabbit.
It's
Okay,
a big
I
problem
was-
for suburban
I just wanted
dog
to talk
owners.
I just want to talk about how I didn't love the voice communicators.
Yeah,
I loved
that
it
was
so
the-
much. I wish that my dog had one, and we'd have great conversations.
I bet your dog was smarter than Doug, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. Dog's smarter than like 97% of dogs on Earth.
So
So
we agree.
Either way, I didn't love that.
it's like my favorite part of the whole movie is the dogs communicating.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why I think that's why I still I wouldn't take it out of the movie, and I can still appreciate the movie and watch it and like it. I just, for me personally, I don't love those things in movies, but I think the movie would not be as good with them in it. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, okay, so it doesn't hurt me to watch this movie and still appreciate it, even though I
Just
think
gotta push
Yeah.
that thought out your
that's
brain.
why I'm saying I still have suspension of disbelief for it. It's just I don't love it. I don't love it
Yeah.
when movies do that.
And I think the reason that the dogs are in there is because you can't have like actual minions.
Exposition.
Yeah, like you need a few more characters to create some more conflict and context for humor. But if you made them real people,
It wouldn't make any sense because then he'd have slaves.
yeah,
Will they be
would
real
be
people
super.
with-
It'd be super dark. This would be a drama now.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I think him doing what he does to dogs is dark regardless.
yeah.
I mean,
Especially
that
like
dude's a fucking murderer.
oh man, like when he knocks off the heads and he's like a biologist looking for a rare flower.
I'm talking about months now.
yeah,
Yeah,
talking
like-
about months, and then
Which-
when he
yeah.
gets
Pointy
to
chin.
and when he gets to Carl's and he's like a man who's floating his house, like like to me, it was like, oh, so these were actually real people that were just telling the truth, but you're so paranoid that you
You
just
killed
killed
all
them,
people
yes.
for no
Yeah.
reason.
Which is again, so like I said this is a kids movie, and it is a kids movie.
It's a family
Just
movie.
because it's a kids movie doesn't mean it can't have like adult themes or like adult content that like something that so I always think that Disney and Pixar, they have to put something in the movie to make it palatable for the parents of kids. Like they have to take their kids to these movies. So
don't
there
think-
has to be like narratives. There has to be something in the movie that makes it like watchable for adults who are watching it, and that's why I think these movies are so successful
Yeah.
because adults like them.
yeah,
and
'cause
it's
they're
not-
okay. So
But,
like,
but what I'm just my point is when you break it down, it is a kids movie.
I
you know?
disagree with that, dude. Because like when I think of like
Okay.
kids movies and stuff, I think of like Paw Patrol or fucking
Yeah, Dora the
Explorer or
Explorer.
some
I mean,
shit
you're
like
talking
that.
about like toddler stuff. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but that's
whatever.
the thing. It's like
that's what I'm
what's
saying.
the
It's like
difference
this
between
movie is made for an entire family. Where like me, who's a single
Okay, I
dude
guess
who's
that's-
27, likes the movie. It's
I
not.
guess that's a good way to put it. Like
Yeah.
a family movie, not necessarily a kids movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get away from using that
Yeah, 'cause
that
it's
moniker.
a human movie. That's
Okay,
what's so
it is- it's a
successful
human
about
movie.
Pixar.
I was just gonna say about the dogs. My favorite part with the dogs is when they go to the blimp and they talk to Carl Munz for the first time, and they the dogs bring him like a menu, and he's like, surprise me, and they bring back a bottle of wine and they spill it everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
They
That
like
was, like,
eat
the
the kid's
funniest
hot dog and
thing.
stuff. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
but
that's-
I do
that's-
love
yeah.
when he first brings the bottle over. He's like, oh yes, good choice.
Well, how the fuck did
Yeah,
he have a
they,
hot dog?
They spill it everywhere.
Where
That's
did they get
why-
a fucking hot dog from?
That's what I'm saying. It's not important.
It's really
It's not
dark.
important.
That's a really dark thought.
but
Is it made from dogs, dude?
but there's
Are they-
But that's what I'm saying. It's like there's enough. Oh my god. There's enough.
It's a hot dog.
That's what I'm saying. It's so like, while as a whole, like I said, this movie is average to me. But there are fun things like that in it. Like like you brought the menu and everything, and he's like, oh yeah, good choice. I like those. I like those parts. There's plenty of parts to like in this movie, but
Yeah.
I think as a whole, like it just didn't hit home for me.
I
Yeah,
guess
it's wild.
what I meant about not liking the dogs for me was just a lot of the jokes didn't land for me because like Doug being a dumb dog.
Do you
or-
have a dog, McKinnon?
Hey, let me finish my thought. The dog having like a low IQ and like being goofy, and then Alpha having like the squeaky voice. Like those are all jokes that didn't seem like there was a lot of thought put into
did
them.
not-
They were just making the obvious joke, you know.
I
And
did
that's
not
why
like
didn't
the.
joke.
I did not like the alpha
Yeah.
high voice at all.
No.
I
I
that
thought it
was
was
not funny
it
to
was
me
the
at
it was
all.
the best use that I've ever seen of it, because normally we contrast a high squeaky voice with this big masculine or like violent character, and
Yeah,
that's
giant
funny.
dude named Tiny.
Yeah, but
So-
but this being like a malfunction and not the actual intention, I think
The-
was a better
the-
use of it.
The voice of Doug is the same voice of Alpha with the high voice and the low voice. It's the same guy. Same
Is
voice
he the
actor.
same as? I guess he wouldn't be the same for all of them because they all have a different timbre. But
Yeah, but no, it's the same voice again, just either pitched up or pitched down for Alpha.
Well,
that's funny.
Whenever I think of that character with like a squeaky voice, I think about Emperor's New Groove when Yzma is turned into like a cat.
Yeah, oh my god. Is that my voice?
And I think
voice?
I
It's
think
so
that
good.
movie makes the joke so much better. Like I think that movie really
Because it like
uses the
acknowledges it and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
whereas
I mean,
like
this
it
movie
just,
also acknowledges it.
Yeah.
but it seems
In
lazier
a not
to
funny
me,
way.
that's
He's just
all.
like, oh, your communicator's
Yeah, I
broken.
don't think that the
Yeah.
fucking squeaky voice thing was necessary
Yeah.
at
Because
all.
you see these jokes, like no joke is really original, you know. Like people are copying jokes from other
I
things.
feel like I
all
make
the
original
time.
jokes all the time.
Sure, Dayton. I just whenever I see a joke, I'm like, but this movie did it so much better. It didn't seem like the writer really put that much thought into it for this movie or whatever.
Yeah,
It just-
I
it
actually
sticks out
think
to me.
like
I just
That's
don't
all.
think that you can put that much thought into dog jokes, dude.
Well, I think there were some. I think there were some like when they're all talking as a group, like yeah, I like you for now.
yeah.
Like those,
Yeah.
those were funny jokes. And I
Yeah.
think those were like as like when they were like more of like a collective voice. Those were funnier because it was like the randomness, like the stupidity that we kind of associate with animals. Like you're not a real, like this is just like what a dog looks at. Like
Because there were other dog tropes that they could have made jokes about besides just squirrel.
Speaking
Yeah.
of
Said
speaking
gets
of
it all
jokes,
up on the tennis ball, dude.
I suppose I see that
That's
one.
true. That
Yeah,
I
the
did
tennis
like,
ball is like my favorite
the
part.
tennis ball joke is
It's-
those are good.
yeah.
Yeah.
speaking of jokes, they work a really good poop joke into this movie.
Whoa.
You know when so Russell and Carl are going through the jungle and they're carrying the house on their back or whatever, and Russell's like, I have to go to the bathroom, and they finally tie up the tree and he goes and he's like, Russell's carrying like a little shovel and leaves. He's like, I've been waiting to do this. Clearly he's and
He's
then
gonna
he's
take
like,
a shit.
and he's like, do I dig the hole first or later?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's the hole first. It's very clearly I think a well done poop joke.
Yeah, it is. It's so euphemistic and yet so well timed.
I made a note of this. It's like they managed to work in a well done poop joke into this movie.
Yeah. You know what's funny is how with Carl's character they used a couple like old man tropes throughout it. Like at the beginning when he's like yelling at the CEO like at the job site with the megaphone, it's like you which
I think they called us a foreman.
well, I mean the foreman wouldn't be a suit.
Oh, you're talking about the suit guy.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant when. Okay, gotcha. I know
Why
what
does
you're
it
talking about.
matter? Just like Calvin talk.
Sorry, because I
This
think
is how we run the show, McKinnon. Shut
Yeah.
up.
I thought Calvin's trying to be really technical and fancy and like let me get this guy a cool title. It's just a foreman. But now I know you're talking.
Yeah.
He's yelling at the suit guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
See, okay, that makes more sense.
And he's like take a bath, you hippie. And I was like, it was just like, it felt like just an old man like cliche because it
Right.
was,
Very,
first
very
of all,
get off
okay,
my lawn of
yeah,
him.
yeah. Because first of all, like he is literally like ripping up your entire neighborhood for the purpose of commercial enterprise. That is like the furthest
Yeah.
from like a
A
hip.
hippie, you could be.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
You-
that just
yeah.
felt like, oh, let's just make him as old man as possible without as much Pixar inventiveness as you would have normally expected.
You can't see it right now, but I made a total face because that joke makes no sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, did shower hippie? He's clearly not a hippie at all, and it was just okay. Like, it seemed like the writers were like, old man thing, old man phrase. Let's
I
put it
think
in.
that
Yeah.
they put it in there because it doesn't work. I think that's the
Well,
point.
or I mean, they could have been like things cost less when I was younger, or whatever. Be like, you could put
Yeah,
anything like
classic old man joke. Just
I
like
mean,
there's classic
he-
dog jokes and
he
classic
could've-
child jokes in
that.
this
It's still,
movie.
it's just lame. He could have been
Yeah.
like, Coca-Cola cost a nickel when I was a kid. Like it's not funny. It's
Yeah.
it made no sense to me. And
I
it
don't
felt-
think it's supposed to be
Well,
funny.
I think it could have been like they could have used a more stereotypical old man joke that would have made sense within the context. Like,
Get off my lawn.
yeah, I mean, exactly. Just that phrase itself could have, I think, would
He
have
could have been
functioned
like
better.
he could have been
Wouldn't
like
have
I learned how
either.
to tie a tie better when I was a young buck or something. I don't
You
know. Like
literally
something,
can't even
like,
tie a tie. That's a big part of the movie.
It's just
Yeah, I
it's
do
just,
like that. They really
Yeah,
want.
I
I think
don't
they. I think
It's
they
like he wears a
included.
bow tie after Ellie dies.
I think you get his point,
Oh,
Jaden.
that's
my
actually
God,
that's
I didn't
actually a
know
lot.
that.
That's actually a lot harder to tie than a regular.
It's a clip-on.
I mean, if it is a clip-on.
It is.
I mean,
Well, the
did we
last-
see it?
The last
I'm
time
pretty
he
sure,
does,
yeah.
the last time he
I'll
puts
take
it
your
on,
word.
Ellie's putting it on for him, the bow tie.
Is he? Is she?
Yeah.
Maybe he just never takes it off.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
like
mean-
she ties his ties the whole
no,
movie.
either way, that
I'm
joke
pretty
is
sure.
bad.
I was
Yeah, I
gonna
think
say,
they put
okay.
it in just so they could show the
I don't
different
think
fabric
that it's
types of the
supposed to
ties.
it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I want to move on
Wait,
to.
I had one thing I wanted
Okay,
to say
go
real
ahead.
quick about the construction workers at the beginning of the movie. When Carl strikes the guy in the head with the walker, was this the first Pixar movie to show blood?
Ooh,
No.
I don't think so.
I don't
Nemo,
know
right?
because I thought the same thing.
No, Finding Nemo.
I
was
guess
thinking
if you.
Finding Nemo too because the shark sniffs the blood.
Well, okay, is it the first movie
I
to show
guess-
human blood?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Wow.
Because I
Maybe
thought that when I
speciest.
saw it, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
I
there's
want
blood
to
on
say
him.
I heard when this movie came out that it was the first one. I can't remember that far
I'm really
back.
trying to think here.
I don't know.
It was just something I thought about that's uncommon.
You're
I'm
the
sure when
producer.
this-
You can literally look it up.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna run the numbers.
Well, I think
real
that
So-
it might. Is it the first Pixar movie to have humans be the main characters?
No, Incredibles came out before.
Oh, that is true.
But those
Um,
weren't humans.
and-
They were superhumans.
Oh my
Okay,
god,
okay,
that-
yeah,
it's
she-
about
fuck off.
human beings. Okay,
Is
whatever.
there no blood in Incredibles? They beat the shit out of each other. I'm pretty sure that Mr.
don't-
Incredible bleeds quite a bit in that movie.
I don't,
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because
There
like
has
that
to be,
robot
right?
like fucks him up, dude.
Yeah.
Now I don't know.
And
But
doesn't,
anyways,
like Sid
so
have like a scab
I'm
at
trying
some
to-
point in Toy Story? I'm probably just inventing things.
I'm
now.
trying to Google was up the first movie with blood, and it auto-corrected Bloodhound because there's dogs in the movie.
Just type in first Pixar movie with blood.
okay.
So we'll move on. I want to talk about Carl's introduction to Muntz when he meets him on the island.
hero,
On his, and
Who's
so
somehow the same age.
okay. So I looked into it. Muntz is 92
Mhm.
and Carl is 78.
Yeah, that makes
So he's
sense.
14 years older.
Which I get, and
And
that,
he's a
that
young
does.
man in the beginning. Then
But they act the same age. Especially they have a fight scene at the end, and they're both like, "Oh, my back," and they
I
like
mean,
can't move.
Yeah.
but you're fucking old.
My-
you're
my-
old, dude.
I would have. I don't know. That was another thing. I was like watching this movie, and I was like, "Why are they like? They're like they act the same age. They move the same age."
Yeah, that
like,
did bother me as
And
well.
that was the thing. Is I was like, okay, so it's like, I think you should have, if you wanted to have that scene at the end, I think you need to have Carl without a cane, and you need to have Muntz with a cane. You need to do something to make Muntz look older because they look this. I mean, they
Some
look and
people
act the
just
same
take
age.
better care of their bodies,
Yeah,
dude. Maybe
I mean,
he's
he's
using
been-
TB12
It's
pliability.
still that was another thing. Again, this was me. Like I watched the movie and I
He's
noticed
got
these
he's
things.
hiking around this freaking
Yeah.
jungle for the past freaking
Yeah.
60 years, and Carl's just sitting on the couch with his wife. Like, of course, he's in better shape.
Again,
Yeah,
it's just
he
another.
walks up the occasional hill
Yeah, it's-
slowly.
It's just another thing where I was like, okay, like that doesn't make any
Struggle.
sense to me, but like I'm gonna move on because it doesn't really affect the story of the movie. It doesn't really affect the characters in the movie. But it's just another thing. I'm just like, this movie had a lot of things where I'm just like, like I don't.
I feel
kinda
like if
broke
you
that
watch
wall.
I don't
any,
love- like, I
any
don't love
Pixar
that.
movie, you're gonna find things like that. They're animated movies.
I don't know. I disagree with that because I think other movies have done a better job of kind of setting up the rules of what's going on in that movie. Like, okay, so like everything that happens, like Toy Story, I don't second guess it because like I've already been set up in a world where like I already have to believe that toys are alive. So
So
now
if toys are alive, there's willingly getting tortured by the neighbor kids.
so now anything that happens with the toys after that, it's like, okay, even if it's wacky, like I believe it because I'm already set up in a wacky world. Same with like Finding Nemo. It's like I'm
You're not
already
set up in a wacky world with Up,
well, no, because I'm following human characters and they've already
who fly a house with a balloon.
but they've already set them up in like a world where like there's some kind of corporate company who's gonna take over his house and build up a thing. They've already set it up
And
to
he
kind of
escapes from that in a very wacky
okay.
manner.
It's just not. I don't even get a chance to finish. I'm just saying it's not like enough to me to like set up the rules for what is going on in this movie, and that's why like there's sometimes I don't take certain parts. It's not set up for me to just like understand and believe it just because of what I'm watching. There are other movies that I think Pixar has done better where I just understand what I'm watching and I know the rules and I just go along with it. This movie had a lot more
There's no
things.
rules.
This movie had a lot more things where I just don't go along with it, and that's like my opinion. I just don't. There's a lot of stuff where I just don't go along with it because, and I find myself like second guessing, like wondering why is this the way it is? Because like I'm not, and this is why this movie is not. This is why it's your favorite and not mine. Because like it is, I don't love a lot of the stuff in this movie.
It just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me the way you're like picking the narrative to watch it. Like the way you're viewing this is like they're taking it so seriously, and it's a freaking animated movie, dude.
Okay,
Like,
but
you're
then
nitpicking everything about it.
earlier I say it's a kids movie. You guys tell
It's
me
not
it's
a kids
not.
movie.
Yeah, I mean that's the
So
thing. But you're
so I'm
you're
co- I'm
you're, you're
confused
trying to
yeah.
well, you're trying to make it like this is the most realistic setting for a Pixar movie, and I think that's the thing that bugs you the most. It's not as whimsical, or there
Exactly.
aren't as many,
Thank you.
there
Yes,
aren't
that's
as
a
many
good way to
rules
put it.
about it. Like
Yeah.
like 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 you can suspend your disbelief because all of these other crazy wacky things are happening, whereas in this world it's very like this could this is pretty much the Notebook, but like in um Pixar world, and they've kind of already established that balloons are clearly more potent in this world
That's
with
the other thing
with
is,
the
yeah,
with the
there was a
car.
lot of setup for the balloons, and again, like before watching this movie, like I knew that the balloons were gonna lift the house. Like that wasn't like a oh my god, are the balloons gonna work thing? Like
Yeah, I
that-
mean they're
like, I knew
clearly
that.
using
I knew that.
hydrogen
Like,
and
yeah.
not helium,
Yeah,
but
there we go.
that's the whole point.
So
Then before going into the movie, you understood the wackiness of it, and you're still
I knew the wackiness of one part of the movie, and then like as it went on, I was like, I don't like buy this as much as I wanted to buy, because I wanted to buy into this movie. I'm just saying, for me, it's like I never got to the point where I really uh, appreciated the movie for what I think they were going for. Like for me,
Yeah.
that's how it was.
And I think it's because like I don't think that the narrative is or those plot points are as strong, but they don't need to be. Like what the things that you really focus on are the relationship that Carl has with his house. All of this baggage and his memories, and all of the one of the most like tear jerking moments is when he's talking when Russell is talking about his sash, and you'll notice he's like, if I get my assisting the elderly badge, then I'll finally be a senior wilderness explorer, and my dad will come to the ceremony. And if you'll notice, there's a hole right there in the middle of his sash, right over his heart, a literal
Right.
hole in his heart, and that type of thing is like. It's so much less about the narrative and more about the experience of these characters trying to live.
So if we want to move into more of Carl's relationship with Russell and Carl's relationship with his dad, because this is kind of this is the part of the movie where I really think it needs to hit home better for me. I want to hear everyone's else opinion before I give mine. What do you guys think about kind of Carl's relationship with Russell? And then I really want to know what you think about Russell, kind of how he describes his relationship with his dad, and was that emotionally enough for you?
yeah, absolutely. It was incredibly emotional for me. I mean, I was tied right into it. I mean, I come from a broken home. It's very easy to relate to that. And I think that's I don't know, I was instantly tied in with Russell in that fucking aspect. And his character, and with Carl being there for him and not even realizing what he's doing.
I wasn't super attached to their relationship because they only really spend one moment where they're deep with each other, where Russell talks about his relationship with his dad or whatever, even just to the surface level, and that's really the only moment that he talks in like a deep way to Carl that I saw. So
Yeah.
I wish they spent more time on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Calvin,
And,
what do you think? Yeah.
Well, and that's what I think is so great about it is the whole film is being an allegory for, once you get to a certain point in your life is over. But if you think about like how he never had kids, he could never have it. Like, well, I guess that part of you think about the adventure book, at least adventure book, things to do, things I want to do, and or things I'm gonna do, and he didn't see kids weren't gonna be in the picture, and so he spent all the entire film trying to reject that part because it wasn't his journey was over. There were, the whole thing was just getting to Paradise Falls because it was all about Ellie's journey, all about the things that Ellie was going to do and how he was a partner to her. And now without her, he didn't have anything to do. He didn't realize he was just denying these things, these parts of what he could be because he was so focused on her. And she was the one and he was pulling her and her memories to the place. So that's why I think that he spent all movie not trying to connect with Russell, and why ultimately when he finally opened the book and realized like he was a part of the story, it wasn't Ellie's story. He needed to be the one to continue the story on and continue living life. And that's when, Doug's at the door. It's like, I'm your master.
Yeah,
you're
a good boy.
Yeah. And like, that's where his
Great
revelation comes from. And that's why he's then tries to foster the bond. And then you have like basically the same thing in the credits. You have all of these great little vignettes of him and Russell doing, father-son type things at the end. And that's the whole point. The whole point of the film was that he was not living life anymore. He was ready to just end because Ellie was dead, but there is no end to life as long as you're alive.
Right. No. Okay. I think so far these are all good takes. I did not buy the relationship between Russell and Carl at all. Like, I think at the end, you have Russell. He's about to get his badge, and his dad doesn't show up, and Carl's the one to put it on. That felt completely unearned to me. I think that they needed to lean a lot more into maybe more of Carl saying that, like, I never wanted kids, or like, I don't have kids, and I'm not going to be your dad. And I'm not saying you need to have like literally that dialogue in the movie, but the fact that Carl doesn't have kids is only brought up in like that montage, and that's never brought up again. And so like I never really, it made no sense to me why he would want to be like sort of a father figure or a mentor to Russell, because he spent his whole life with Ellie not doing that. And so like when he turns up to kind of be a mentor and a father figure for Russell, I was like, it felt unearned to me. And the other thing about, I thought they needed to lean more into Russell's character being like, because I think McKinnon brought up, I think it's brought up twice. He talks about his dad. Russell talks about his dad twice, and I thought they needed to lean more into that because it's, I'm not saying everything needs to be told to me, but it's a little, I don't know, too ambiguous to me because I sort of don't know how much Russell's dad actually means to Russell because he doesn't like talk about it enough. And so the fact that someone else is taking Russell's dad's place to pin the badge on, I don't think it means as much because, like, I know he says he loves the curb and all that and everything, and there's some fun stuff and there's some nice stuff, but I just think they needed to lean more into the fact that, like, Russell really doesn't have a dad, or he has an absent dad, and he really needs someone to, like, fill that void for him, and Carl needs to have something else kind of pointing to the fact that he's not going to fill the void, and then at the end of the movie when he decides he will fill that void, it would make the impact stronger for me, and that's why I didn't really love that connection between them. It felt unearned at the end.
See, I feel like that's exactly what happens in the movie, though. Like what you were describing, what should happen is Carl doesn't want anything to do with Russell the whole time, and Russell's just trying to leach onto him.
Yeah,
That's like he's like, get the fuck off of me, and like, because Carl doesn't want anything to do with him. He's like, damn, now I have to take care of this kid.
Isn't that
not
like
something he wants to do? And he ends up they end up earning each other's like trust and stuff.
That's the problem though, because they spend one scene around the campfire, and even after that, he still doesn't want anything to do with Russell. He spends the whole movie not wanting him around. He's just stuck with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well,
And then
so that's the
So,
thing. Like,
so that's why it feels unearned at the end when he puts the badge on, because even
he didn't want to be, but he was still there.
Yeah,
but
it
doesn't
feels
feel
like
he
even at the end of
wanted
the movie,
to.
he still doesn't want to do it.
well,
I
so what?
completely
know.
disagree with that.
Yeah, I would.
He
because,
risked
like,
his life to save the kid multiple times.
And I think why it feels unearned is because when he has his realization, he has to go save Russell then, because immediately Russell takes the balloons and goes off. And he realized then that he needed to live his life more like Ellie. And why I do think it is earned is because he had lived his entire life through Ellie. When he pins the grape badge on, the grape soda badge on him,
Right.
it's because he has now become the mentor that Ellie was for him. That's what I think is you have to look at the characters kind of separately in this case, like how they function as coming together. And Russell mentions his dad. Like, he doesn't say that his dad is, like, absent or anything all that often. He just says, he mentions his dad all the time, like, oh, the GPS, my dad's gonna, we count the cars, he's gonna, he mentioned him at the beginning of the film as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To me, it
it's
was
just like,
never enough. I mean, I
well,
get
that's
what you're
the thing.
saying. It
It's
was
like,
just
I
never
think it
enough
was.
to
I just
me.
think
I
if
think
it was
that's
any
what's
more,
great.
it'd be
Yeah.
beating you over the head with
Yeah,
it.
I think that's what's so
Yeah,
great
all right,
about
well.
what about Pixar is they load certain phrases so heavily with emotional value that's all you need. Like, if you're not invested in the emotion of the film, it's not going to hit quite right. But I think they put the right amounts in, and if you look at their character development as more vacuums as to rather than their relationship with each other, because you can really think about it like Russell is just trying to earn his dad's love, appreciation. He wants him to see him, and Carl just wants to die because he's lived his entire life as Ellie. Like, that's the only reason he has left to live, is he thinks he's finishing Ellie's journey. And when he looks back at his life, all of the things Ellie wanted to do were with him, and then he sees himself in Russell, and that's why it's so significant that it's not about their relationship, it's what he sees in Russell as an extension of himself as a child.
I mean, I can get what you're saying. That just and again, I mean, these movies are gonna hit differently for each person. This was just not one that did it. So like you brought up the adventure book,
Mm.
and so this is after like Russell's gone away and they kind of have their breakup and they're not friends anymore. And I was really thinking, I was like, oh man, he's gonna go open up the book, and it's gonna have like, oh, it gets to the page and it's like things I want to do or things I will do or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was gonna be like, travel through like the jungle with Carl or whatever, or like meet new friends with Carl and like Doug is that new friend that they meet, or like
Like
save
each page.
save a lot, and it would be something in each page would parallel the relationship and the adventure that Carl and Russell had gone through. And I thought that was going to be like the emotional tie-in to get Carl to go and like save Russell, because like all these adventures that Carl
That
had
would
been
have worked really well.
right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was, and again, it's like it was just kind of my expectation, I think, of the movie is what kind of brought the movie down to me, is because I was like, oh man, that would be so cool if they did this thing where it's like all this stuff in the book that Carl wanted to do with his wife is now paralleled in his relationship with Russell, and that's going to be like the spark that like gets him to go and like save Russell. And to me, if they had done that, then all the stuff at the end where he's pinning the badge and he's saving him, then it's like, oh my god, like he's realizing that
It would have given you a little bit more emotional tie.
it's like
into
he's
it.
realizing like, oh, I do have this like strong relationship with Russell, and like he is someone I care about. He is someone I want to like go and save, and I want to fulfill his dream of getting that wilderness badge and
Fill that hole in his heart.
yeah. And so like I thought like the movie just needed that one step to like put Carl in the position to like want to do the stuff for Russell because he cared about Russell, and I just don't think it ever quite hit that for me. And again, that's like my own expectation going into a scene where I saw it and I was like, oh man, I bet they're going to do this. And when it didn't happen, I was like, now I kind of don't think the movie's going to hit the emotional notes I wanted to. And so, yeah, I don't disagree with you guys. I think you're probably right. They do ladle in enough stuff about Russell's dad to like make it matter, and Carl can probably like take that next step and be that mentor to him. It just like, I mean, I don't know. I just thought that it just needed that like just a little bit more to like really get me to be like, I really love the relationship between these two.
Yeah.
It just never quite got there for me.
So like what I'm like from what I'm like understanding from what you're getting at is like just a lot of stuff in this movie is a little bit too vague for you.
I don't know.
Like they just like from what I'm understanding, it's like
I guess the way I'm saying it
things
is
were
I
just, like,
want it
weren't
spelled out to
to
me,
me, yeah.
which is not really what I
that's
wanted.
not that's not the way I wanted to put it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, like you
It would've
want
just been nice
things
if
are
it
a little
was-
bit too representative for you, rather than being like a better to like. I think you think of this more as like wanting more like dialogue drama out of it.
I feel like
and it's not
it's
there for
one
you.
emotional scene away from like me really buying into this
Yeah.
movie.
And see-
That's what I think it is. And it doesn't need to be dialogue or whatever. It just it was just like, yeah, it's just like one tick off from being like, wow, I really love this, and it was just like,
So
I
one
don't
thing
quite love it.
one thing that we have not discussed at all,
Well,
not even
before
one,
we move on, though, I do want to mention that like what I loved about the adventure book you're talking about, like I think that would have been a good way of doing it. But what I loved about every time he opened the adventure book, he always stopped at
Right,
that page
right.
before, things I want to do. Like, oh,
So
we
he
never,
didn't want to
we
look.
never.
Yeah.
Well, no, because he thought they never did anything,
Hmm.
and he didn't because he didn't realize that they were living the whole time.
Yeah.
So I liked that part of it.
That is a
but-
cool part. It's
yeah.
like when he finally realizes, like, because it's almost like a surprise. It like goes to his face, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's more to this," because he didn't even know. It's what I took from that. It's like he didn't even
Mhm.
know that she had added pages to it.
Yeah, and thought of him as the journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, one thing we have not discussed at all about this movie, which is a big part of it, is Kevin.
Which, okay, I'm excited that you brought that up because I don't think Kevin's a big part of the movie because we've spent the whole time not talking about Kevin. Like, I think
Kevin drives a lot of the plot, man. Like a lot of it. Like he's the whole reason there's controversy in between him and fucking skinny chin guy.
The object of Kevin is what drives the plot. The character of Kevin
He's
is
a she's a bird.
Yeah, but Doug is a dog. And
But Doug has a communicator. If Kevin did,
so
I do love that one part about Kevin though. He's like, shoot, like,
Yeah, no,
I
the
was
bird
just
is
about to say,
fucking funny.
that's the
dude.
only
Yeah.
funny part about Kevin. He's like, shoot.
Everything about Kevin is funny.
I disagree.
The
I'm just
whole
saying,
his
yeah,
whole aspect of him being or her being in the movie is hilarious.
No.
Her
Hey,
name is Kevin. Kevin's a girl. It's all great, dude.
having a female bird in your movie that has a boy name.
it's not inherently
That's
funny.
not-
I think
inherently
it's
funny.
hilarious because it's
Yeah.
freaking kids. Like, I'm gonna name this bird Kevin, which
I
is
don't know.
hilarious name for a bird.
Yeah, see, I always wanted to name like when we first got Draco, I wanted to name him Derek, so that like when
That
I
would
was
be great.
Yeah, I was at the dog park like Derek,
Yeah.
get over here, Derek.
Yeah.
See,
I just would
love,
think of it more as like
I
a
love
drinking
animals
buddy.
with like common human names. Like I
Yeah.
love it so much.
Yeah.
Dude. Like name him Jeff or something.
I'll
Like,
see.
it's great.
Nathan and Mackenzie were gonna name their dog. What were they gonna name? They had so many great names,
Shout
like
out
George.
to Nathan and Mackenzie.
Yeah,
Nathan!
yeah, if you're listening, but
We
they
know
ended
you
up
will.
they ended up getting a girl dog and her name that she came with I think was Taco, so they left it.
See, I wanted
My
to name.
sister's dog's name.
I
Yeah,
wanted to name-
I was like, listen, I was like Taco. Oh, that's such a great name.
I thought about renaming Luna to Penelope when I got her, but she's too old.
That's
so.
too many syllables.
Penelope. I would call her Penny for short.
I don't
That's
know.
good.
But I don't think Kevin is.
Shout out to
Eh,
Michael and his dog Penny.
Oh, nice.
We'll just.
Now
let's-
we've mentioned all of our listeners.
And to the dude in the UK.
Yeah,
What up?
Yeah, UK listener, include the name of your pet in
Shout
the
out.
email, and we'll shout it out.
And we'll put it on.
Hopefully-
We'll put it on your shirt.
We'll put it on the
Yeah.
shirt. Yeah.
I hope he has a lizard named Steve or something, dude. That'd be great.
But I just, I kind of think. Oh, a fun fact: Kevin is voiced by Andy Serkis.
Whoa, I did not know that's
Gosh,
cool.
is-
Yeah.
is
Greatest
he,
voice
like, in
actor of our
every film?
generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he's like, and you wouldn't even know, right?
No, because
Yeah.
he's the greatest voice actor of
Yeah,
a generation.
He's incredible. We all agree that, like, yeah, he
Yeah.
could voice act anyone.
Yeah.
I was
If anyone
lying.
was gonna play me in a movie, are you?
I was lying.
I
He's-
could.
he's
I
not
bought
the
it.
voice of
I
Andy
bought it. I
Serkis.
bought it.
We trust you. Like, that's your role. It's fun
was-
facts,
yeah,
and you're
he-
just twisting our arm. Like, oh my god, yeah,
You could
like,
just see Andy Serkis in there just going, "Wop," like
yeah, yeah. Did you know that the entire basis of the model for Kevin is Andy Serkis?
standing there in a bird suit.
I made that note as soon as Kevin popped up, and I was like, I'm gonna tell everyone this is true. Like,
That's great,
I was
dude.
like, and I know they'll believe me.
Yeah, no, Kevin is just a comical side character to drive exposition in the movie.
yeah, he's just it's just a plot device.
That's
I don't.
it.
That's why I don't like Kevin. I don't care about Kevin.
I don't necessarily
I
care.
don't-
He's funny. She's funny.
Kevin is not good or bad. It's just in the movie,
Yeah.
and that's all.
The bird looks great, and it's funny.
Boy, oh boy,
Yeah.
does it look great. That's again, we skipped over Kevin in the animation because
Yeah.
again, no one cares about Kevin because it's so forgettable. But
It is. I mean,
but yeah, no, it is so cool to me that they somehow Pixar's really good at putting these like very very realistic like aspects into all their characters, but they're so cartoony that you kind of forget how good some of it looks. Like, you know, you go and like Finding Nemo, like the fish look great, and they do all this stuff, and you see all the scales and like all the coloring's right, all the patterns are right on these very vibrant fish, and they do the same thing with Kevin. It's very beautiful colors, and you can see like each little like hair that goes into
and
the
just,
feather,
like
and
the
everything.
way he walks,
Yeah.
everything about it, dude.
Yeah, it's so well done, and I think you forget about that, like watching it. You're like, oh, fun Kevin, colorful Kevin, and it's like, oh my God, is she not animated so well? It is rendered beautifully. It is a very good-looking character, very boring, and could have been
I even
replaced
have,
with
like, a
anything
hard-
else, and I would not have noticed.
it literally could have been replaced. Like it could have just been Doug. Like honestly,
I would not have noticed if she was
No.
not in the movie at all.
but yeah, I have even a hard time calling it a character, man. Like it
Yeah, it's more of just a device.
yeah, it's very like as funny and goofy as it is definitely like what I would say is the lamest part of the movie is Kevin.
I keep looking over at McKinnon scowling. Like, do you have? Are
Do
there
you
other?
just love Kevin?
Yeah,
is that your
is-
favorite part of
is
the movie?
Kevin, like,
McKinnon?
what drives you to get butts
the
and
only
seats?
reason you watched it.
I didn't like so much of this movie.
It's so
That's-
wild.
It was
Why?
so
Okay, it's
boring.
so weird.
It's so boring.
How is it boring?
Yeah.
There's so many. Like, Russell is digging a poop hole, and that's
It's
hilarious.
Great, dude.
I didn't find any of the jokes funny. They're
Are
like,
you like typically a Pixar fan?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you
So, like-
grumpy when you watched?
I don't think
this?
think there's
Yeah.
anyone I know who watches more animated movies than McKinnon does.
I watched. I mean, I've
Probably
watched
probably
a
you
bunch.
two.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Probably between you two, like you watch a ton of animated
Yeah.
movies. So I actually think McKinnon probably has if he finds this boring, I actually believe it because
So
Oh
he
yeah,
watches
I
a
believe him
lot.
too. Yeah, I'm just
Normally, I don't take
I'm just
McKinnon
trying
at
to
his
dive
word.
down into what he's thinking here.
So-
Yeah,
my
normally, I don't take McKinnon at his word, but he
Whatever.
does seem to.
But when it comes to animated movies, I listen.
My wife and I watch a good amount of animated
I could see
movies.
Lenina loving Pixar. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
shout out to Lenina.
Shout out Lenina.
We don't have a cool pet with a cool name, but just shout out to her.
Shout out. You guys should get a fish.
I know we should.
Name
Dude,
it-
they want to
name
get
it
a
Kevin.
bird.
I wanna
which
get a
is-
bird.
Yeah,
Birds
get a
are
bird and
annoying
name it Kevin.
gross.
Name
Oh
it
my
Kevin.
god!
No,
And then your
so-
firstborn
girl.
child will be named Russell, and you'll have completed the circle.
Russell's such an awful first name for a person.
So I was just gonna say I thought this movie was pretty boring. Yeah,
That's it.
I was just so bored the whole time. I didn't find any of the jokes funny. I thought they were pretty lazy.
Wait, hold on. Do we want to? If McKinnon wants to kick this off, are we good to get into kind of like final
I'm
thoughts
good.
on the
I'm good
movie?
on that.
So yeah, final thoughts for the movie. It was boring. If I wasn't watching the movie for this podcast and my wife wasn't sitting next to me, I probably would have fallen asleep or turned it off to watch something else. I didn't think the jokes were particularly funny. I didn't think the characters were that interesting. After the first montage where the wife dies, I think all the momentum goes away, and I just don't care. That's my final thoughts.
That's all you have to say.
Do you have
I mean,
any-
I could go into more negativity.
I want to hear.
but
I
would
wanna
actually-
hear more.
Yeah, I'd actually want to hear the other parts that you don't like, because maybe I'll
Because
agree
this is
or
a
maybe I'll
wonderful
disagree,
film.
and it will give me more to talk about
So,
when I close out.
Another thing I didn't really care for in this movie was the villain, because he's in the very beginning when he's on the movie that baby Carl is watching, or not baby Carl, but young
Child
Carl. He's watching that, and then you see the villain in like the last 30 minutes of the movie, and it's kind of sudden. I didn't really like how they introduced him.
Too much Deus Ex Machina for you.
Sorta, yeah.
Yeah, just something put in to move the story. Yeah,
But
Yeah.
you
It's not
loved
really,
Kevin,
yeah.
right?
I didn't like
I'm
Kevin.
just fucking with you,
Kevin was
McKinnon.
just a vessel for jokes that I didn't think landed.
Not even the chocolate, dude.
I think
Not even the
I
chocolate.
think a vessel is a good way. Vessel.
That
is
was
just-
a great way to
it-
put it.
It's just a way to move the story into these rocks,
'Cause
or,
that's
or
what
it's to
Doug
give
was,
it's
too.
to give months something
Doug was
to do.
just
like
a
it's-
vessel for jokes, and if they cut out Kevin, Doug, and the villain, and just made it about a boy and this old man.
You'd have 30 minutes.
No, I think that they
Hmm.
could have done more to develop these two people and their relation to each other, and they didn't do enough of that.
I'm gonna bounce off the back of that because I agree. Because my problems. We'll do a joint closing argument here. Because my problem with the movie is I don't think there's enough Carl and Russell interaction, and so I think you could bump those things out of the movie for sure, and then you get a really cool story about Russell and Carl
it could be
together.
about two
yeah,
people
I
lost-
absolutely agree with that.
Lost in the jungle, learning to like appreciate each other.
It's like the whole movie. Okay.
Yeah.
But
That-
it's not, because
It
they
is. It's
muddle it up with
the
a bunch
whole
of
plot.
jokes. They muddle it up with jokes.
So
It's a funny movie.
I don't know.
so you wrapped up on yours?
Yeah, boring.
Yeah.
That's all. 0 Scarlett Johansson's out of 1,000.
I don't even know what is the
This will be
what is the rating system we're giving this one.
Yeah.
Kevin Squawks.
I hate squawks.
All right.
Okay, then we'll give it squawks because squawks are
This
gonna be.
it has to be balloons.
Yeah.
If
Oh, it does have to be balloons.
if it's balloons, I'll give it.
How many balloons did he have on the house? Because
so-
that'll be the
check
top
this
rating.
out. I looked it up.
Okay, sweet.
A minimum of about 2.7 million would be required to lift
Okay,
that.
so that will be the highest score you can
On a
give.
scale of 1.27 million, balloons, how many do you give this
2.7.
movie?
Probably
At least 100K, dude.
420.
1,000?
Just 420.
420.
Dude, that's-
What up?
That's not even lifting a kitten off the ground.
I
That's
agree.
lifted me off the ground.
That's a single Russell.
But Russell would get so high, am I right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, that's a
dude.
big-
Ah.
So I agree with McKinnon. I do like Pixar movies, and I do like the new Disney stuff, animated stuff that's coming out. Like, is Onward is Disney?
Pixar.
yep,
It's
yeah.
Pixar.
Is it Pixar?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I compared this movie to Onward a lot, which
Onward's
is
great.
Onward is.
Almost as good as this
I
movie.
I did not want to watch Onward at all. I finally watched it, and I do not cry at many movies. I cried at the end of this at the end of that movie. It maybe hit a lot of notes that like personally resonated for me emotionally. Like there's a really good relationship with the younger brother and big brother,
Keeper.
and I felt a lot of that stuff. I felt a lot of that emotion kind of coming out in me, and so maybe that movie just based on its narrative emotionally resonated more for me than this movie did. But even still, I just still think it's a more well done movie.
They do a better job with the relationship between the brothers than
Exactly.
they did in this movie with the old man and the boy.
crazy.
I hook, line, and sinker bought the relationship between the brothers in Onward.
Yeah.
And I did not buy the relationship between Russell and Carl in this one.
Because like you get what they're going for. Like you see what they're trying to do.
It just like I said, it needs it just needs that one tick for it. I think it needed one more scene to like really let me know like I need to care more about this.
So
you know?
I was telling my wife while we're watching it, they're sitting at the campfire and Russell's struggling to set up the tent, and then they have that moment where they're talking about his dad, and then that's the end of it. But I wish that they had a scene after they spoke where Carl goes over to help Russell with the tent, and then you have that little moment where they're kind of working together.
Yeah,
I would have liked that.
that's what I'm saying. There's just their interactions. It just wasn't enough for me, and that's kind of how I would close out my view on this movie. It wasn't quite enough, and I don't think it's because it's an animated movie. I don't think it's because it's a family movie. I don't think it's because it's something I can't take seriously because it's kind of cartoony characters. That had nothing to do with it. I think Pixar really strives because it has really good emotion built into all of its films, and it just like I just didn't get to that point in this one, and that's why like this isn't like a stinker by any means. It's fine to watch. I just was like I'd heard so much about it, and again, this movie came out 11 years ago, 12 years ago, yeah, and all I'd heard about was the beginning, and that to me, if I was gonna tell anyone to watch this movie, I'd be like, it's good at the beginning. Like I would say the same thing. Like that's how I feel about it, and so that would be like kind of how I close this out. It's fine at the beginning, and then I think it peaks, and then it just never quite gets back.
So I was dogging on the jokes quite a bit. Did you enjoy the jokes probably more than I did, do you think?
No, that's why I put like in my fun fact, not a single squirrel in the movie. Like it's boring. It's a dumb. To me, it's dumb. I think it's dumb. A lot of the jokes are. There's.
I think of the jokes as kind of lazy. Like the writers were sitting in a room and they made the first joke that comes to your mind, like when you're making those
They're
jokes.
not refined.
That's kind of how
by
I
any
view
means,
them. Yeah.
That's how. Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, so I think McKenna and I probably share a lot of the same opinion on this movie. It's not.
It's
yeah,
a good movie to fall asleep to, I think.
I watched it and I just kept waiting for like what's that next thing that's gonna happen, and that next thing just like never like came. I thought like that's how I felt about it. It's fine. I don't know that this is not like gonna fall into my rotation of Pixar movies I watch because
You have a rotation.
because I do. Okay, so like I love Inside Out. Like I said, I love Onward.
Do you think the Inside Out is better than Up?
Yeah,
That is
absolutely.
fucking wild.
No way.
No way. Inside Out may be the worst Pixar movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely
Inside
agree.
Out is easily my favorite
Oh
Pixar
my
movie.
God. Okay, so we
Oh
have
my
very
gosh.
okay.
Okay,
this is
clearly we
good.
need to get into the PCU and talk about like
Yeah,
which
we need to
Pixar
have-
cinematic
yeah.
universe.
All right, we've built in a new episode for us to do. Because I'd love to talk about Inside Out.
The
Movie
whole
fucking
time,
kind of sucks.
I would love
dude.
to never watch that movie.
Yeah,
again.
me too. I hate
Wow,
that
that's
movie.
wild.
the
Oh,
whole
man.
time I was watching this, I was like, But Inside Out's better.
It is
Oh,
not even close. It's not even a
those-
freckle on Up's ass,
Yeah,
dude.
those characters are so
boring.
stock.
They
They're
suck.
literal personifications of emotions
They're
with
supposed
no
to be.
actual
They're
characters.
supposed to
Just
be.
like
But they're
this
supposed to be
characters are supposed to be
interplay.
what they are in this
Yeah,
movie.
but there's no interplay. There's no relation. There's absolutely nothing.
So
There's like,
anyways, we are
oh.
not talking
I
about
think
Inside
that's-
Out.
Again, so I think that's a good point to bring up. Is I think, like we said, Pixar tries to kind of. It sort of doesn't always matter what the story is or what's going on. Like, I mean, yeah, the characters and everything matters, but like sometimes just like kind of how you emotionally resonate with the movie is, I think, more what Pixar is going for. It's like, how do you feel watching this movie? And for me, Inside Out, like I emotionally resonated with that movie. For Onward, I resonated with that movie. For Up, I did not, and that's fine. And I think that's what makes these movies good, is that they can hit those beats for different people, and it just, I think for McKenna and I, it didn't hit those beats. So that's why
So
I would,
weird.
and
It's
so
a pretty
so,
common narrative that Inside Out is not a good Pixar movie, and that
Actually,
Up is a very good one.
I've actually heard that Inside Out is one of the best reviewed
What?
movies,
I've
and
heard that
I,
so
don't, I
bad.
don't get it.
So-
Most people don't like that movie.
It's the difference between filmmakers and critics. Am I right?
So I want to hear, because I want to close out Jaden's opinion, because this is his movie. And I want to really dive in. So I want to hear Calvin next.
have, like,
So
two
so
things
McKenna
to
and I
say.
have kind of given our thoughts, and they're not the most uplifting ones. But yeah, Calvin, I want to hear what you have to say next.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I think for me, like, a lot of times in movies like this, I get really caught up in the emotions. Like, for anything Pixar, like Inside Out, the emotions hit with more like the human girl rather than the emotion
Yeah, I agree with
characters
that.
themselves. So it's
Even
those
the
moments.
elephant guy.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like I think that Pixar movies, like the magic of them is that they're vehicles for human stories and human emotions contained. There's that. You could think of like Soul, like that's the spark. Embedded within every Pixar film. There's like a singular emotion or human experience that they're trying to have you experience or empathize with. And that's what's compelling. It's not like, the world building in Pixar movies is really cool. There's lots of different weird movies, like, Monsters Inc., Toy Story. All these things are cool, but it's not like these narratives are particularly compelling in the sense that, like, this is original storytelling or anything like that. So it's feeling those emotions so strongly, or just the idea is to empathize that these are real human emotions. You could have a real person experiencing all of these things. And for me, like, I have a like personally, like I wasn't looking forward to watching this film
Like
because
an aversion to watching it, like.
yeah, because I knew that I was gonna feel like a whole mess of overwhelming emotions trying to put myself into these characters' shoes, and I didn't really want to do that at the time. But I absolutely agree. I can see what you mean by there could have been so much more humor. Like the best parts I think are Russell and Carl, and that interplay of Carl being the straight man and Russell being like my favorite humor scene in the whole film is where Russell, in the middle of the dogfight, and all of a sudden Russell hits the glass on the blimp and just slides across. For
That's
about
great.
15
That's
seconds.
fucking fantastic.
I have a great note. It's just like Russell squeaking across glass. I love that part.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
wrote
saying.
that
This
down
movie has
too.
plenty
Yeah.
of like it does have plenty of good things. It's just like there are
It gets bogged down by the narrative,
Yeah,
and I agree with that.
there are parts where I think McKinnon's right, where it's like they're trying to make the obvious joke, and it's just like so obvious that's not funny. But like they do this. I was dogging on it. Like this movie has plenty of funny parts for sure.
Yeah, and so that would be really where my opinion on this film is. It's not my favorite Pixar one, but I still really strongly feel the emotions in it, and that's if it can convey that and enough of those, then I think it's a successful Pixar film. Because I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of notes about particular like shot angles or anything like that, because they're very stock narrative angles and things like that. There's nothing that compelling from a cinematographer's perspective, but that's where I'd put it. I'd put it at, we're talking about 2.7 million balloons. That's just 3-4 ScarJos, right? That sounds about right.
I get the ratios mixed up all the time.
Yeah, I'm confused by your rating.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like so if wait 2.7 million balloons is a ScarJo.
No, that's our rating. That's
Yeah. I'll give it a 1.67.
That's pretty good.
I
It's
didn't
more
give
than five.
mine. I'd give it.
1.67 million, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for
This is,
clarifying.
Yeah,
this
not,
is
not
a-
1 point. Yeah, McKinnon's over here 420.
It's really dogged on
I can't
Tito.
I can't be
I
lower
really
than McKinnon.
didn't like
I
it.
mean, it's
mean-
definitely better than Jurassic Park.
This is a
Oh.
this is a below average Pixar movie to me. I would put it at like 1 million balloons.
All right.
So I want to hear. Yeah, we want to hear Jaden's thoughts. I want you to close us out on this one because
Jaden,
this is your time, man. This
in
is your
your final
movie, and I
thoughts-
want to know why this is your favorite.
In your final thoughts, can you also include your favorite and least favorite scene?
Ooh, yeah, I'd
Yeah,
like
I
that.
can do that.
Okay,
Ooh.
go.
All right. So first and foremost, this movie is part of the three-headed dragon of the pinnacle of Pixar with Onward and Luca.
Oh.
So this movie is fantastic, and maybe it's a little bit different for me. I just feel super emotionally tied to this movie, and when I watch it, and, like, that's why I love Pixar movies. Is like, as you explained, they are just emotionally driven and emotionally based, and that's kind of why I hate Inside Out, because it's kind of picking at the whole point of what Pixar is.
Yeah, it's almost like an inversion of that. Like
Yeah.
let's be the emotions.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid.
I love this fucking movie, dude. It's adorable. Everything about it is cute as fuck. The relationship between Russell and Carl, I love. I think that it doesn't dive too much into it, which, I mean, I prefer. I don't want to get it hit over the head a lot. But man, I mean, favorite scene in this movie is when fucking Doug goes after tennis balls, dude. That is hands down my favorite scene in the movie. And my least favorite scene in the movie is any time the fucking villain is on screen, because he sucks.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of my problem with the movie is the villain is
I
terrible.
just don't. I think that the villain
Totally
isn't even.
uninteresting.
I think the villain's not even the antagonist of the movie. I think the antagonist of the movie is Carl's negative thoughts.
So
Well,
like
I think it's
my-
actually
I was just gonna say, so like my idea of getting rid of the villain.
That would
just-
be fine with me.
you
Yeah,
agree with
yeah,
that?
Yeah.
I'd be
But
cool
keep
to
the
me
dogs.
if they show up to the blimp, the spirit of adventure, and it's just like his skeleton.
Yeah,
in a
with
chair.
dogs
I would
there
been
still.
fine.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
get-
I think that would
get
have
rid
been
of him,
fine
yeah.
too. But that's also an old.
But then,
movie
like, you're
trope.
also having a problem driving the plot at that point.
Yeah. Well, and
there
part
has
of,
to be
like,
controversy.
The reason I like Muntz is because you have a contrast between him and Carl. Like his entire point of existence is collecting things, and it's his journey on what he needs to make himself, and that is in such opposition to how Carl made himself. He was an adjunct to Ellie's journey, and so Ellie put her journey on hold basically to have a life with Carl. And
she
I think
found a new journey.
exactly, and I think that's the point. Is like when he had all of this passion and desire to get to Paradise Falls, to like he was really the shadow of Ellie, you could say, of
Yeah,
like
Matt, it's not the destination; it's the journey.
Are you
dude.
saying
Yeah.
Ellie was the shadow self?
no. Muntz
part-
was
part
the
of
shadow
the-
self of Ellie.
part of the movie, I thought I was like, this would be so much more exciting if it was Ellie and not Carl.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the point.
which I get.
Yeah.
I get the point is
He's
to have
a
like
square.
let's have this
Yeah.
dude who is not because it would make sense to have Ellie do it. But I was just like, oh man, like just the little bits you get of her, I was like, wow,
Yeah,
this
she's
movie
a
would be
great
so much more
character,
fun if she
yeah.
was in it.
And I think that's what's so great about it. That's why I love this story. It's
Yeah.
not like we typically think of like old people as not being important, and like they've lived their lives. They're not important to society anymore.
Why
They
are
have
we
nothing
being old
left
people?
to-
Because it's the closest thing to invisible.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my
Tune
God,
in- tune in next
foreshadow. Yeah,
It's
tune
an
in.
Easter egg for
but,
sure.
But yeah, that's why I loved it. Like Carl is not like a charismatic character at all. And that's what makes it such a fun story that I think that it works. It's like
Yeah.
here's like what we think of as socially is like your life is over after you're married. You've reached your happily ever after. There's nothing more to experience after that. Life is over basically after 30, and then now you
Dude,
know.
I turned 30 in like a month.
Well, let me tell you,
Oh, God.
it's all down. It's been all downhill since.
I don't mean to laugh at you, Calvin. but that was
I mean,
funny.
like, I'm trying to laugh as much as I can. Because 31 is next month, and I can only imagine how much more fucked up everything is about to get.
So
I love you, buddy.
So Calvin, my idea of getting rid of the villain. Are you in a? Do you like the idea? Do you think the villain should be in the movie?
No, I think the best I think the best version of this film gets rid of everything but Russell and
Fucking
Carl.
cannot
Right.
get rid of Doug, dude.
I mean, Doug can be there, but his humor needs to be refined.
I disagree.
Yeah,
Because
I
it's
think-
the perfect amount of
It
dog
sounds-
humor.
This
sounds like I
it can
nailed
only be
it.
like but there can be more funny dog humor ones too. I
So-
think they're your
I
better
think they hit it
ones,
right
too.
on the head, dude.
So Doug calls Russell mailman, I think.
Oh, I do love
Yeah,
the
all
'cause
the-
he's
all the
kind
dogs-
of dressed like
little
one.
mailman.
All the dogs
Little-
call him
yeah.
mailman. Yeah.
No, they
So-
call him little mailman too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
So there are little dog things that they could put into the movie, but it's just that and like squirrel jokes is like as deep as they go.
And the tennis ball and the food.
It
What
just-
There's
food?
all kinds of
What
stuff,
food?
dude.
I don't know. It
There's
could be better.
chocolate.
Okay, so getting back.
Is there a
J-
chocolate
Jaden,
thing?
hold on. Does Jaden, do you have anything else you want to add?
How many balloons was it?
2 points. Oh crap.
2.71
million.
I think it was 2.71 million. I'll give it like it popped 4 balloons. Other than that, it's perfect.
All right. No, and that's why it's your favorite, and that's why we're doing a podcast on it, because this is
Did you
part
say
of our.
you would pop 4 balloons and that's all?
That's it.
oh,
yeah.
I like that.
that's wordsmith.
I
over
was
there.
not doing the math on there, dude.
2699994.
Shut the fuck up. Whatever
Yeah.
it was.
So this is the first installment of our favorite series, and I'm glad you brought this up because brought this movie up because it's funny we've talked about I think much more dense narrative movies on this, and we argued more about this movie than any other movie we have.
Yeah, because and I think this is the when people say like, oh, I watch movies, I watch movies all the time. These are the type of things that they're thinking of. These ones that everybody has an opinion of, and when that's the case, like this is all films like who's gonna have seen The Lighthouse? How many people are you gonna go like onto the street like, oh yeah,
Watch
I like
Under the
movies.
Skin.
Yeah, and like, oh yeah, I love The Lighthouse. Like, we could really get into like some deep psychological discussions about that. You're lucky if you saw like, is that the one with the dude from Twilight?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like that's, and I think that's the thing is like when these types of movies like that collectively more of society has seen, there's a lot more opinions about it.
Yeah, then the opinions are like based in solid ground. Because like, whether I agree with anything that Connor McKinnon said, I'm never gonna let them know that because I love this movie.
Yeah, and that's the
I would love for you to like validate an opinion I have.
off camera.
You could let me know later.
But I think that's the other thing about like opinions too is like when everybody's seen it, we're constantly exchanging viewpoints with other people, and our perspectives on a film are constantly being refined because of that. The memes that you see online, the number of times you've seen it, other perspectives, all of those go into shaping how you ultimately see it at that point in your life versus when you saw it the first time and 5 years in between those. And that's the filmmaking experience that I wish more people approached with all
Yeah.
kinds of films.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, one thing like based off of like, I love this movie because of the first time I saw it, and I won't dive into too many details on that, but I've really, really enjoyed it the first time I saw
I
it.
probably enjoyed this movie a lot more the first time I
Yeah.
saw it for sure. Yeah, but that was like 10 years ago, and I've refined my brain since then.
And
Yeah, so
I
I'll just-
wonder if the reason why I have kind of my opinions on this movie is because this was the first time I've seen it, but I've already heard so much about
Got
it.
it, yeah.
And so maybe part of
And like, the other thing is like, I
part of
know
the reason why I
like-
think the beginning is
Because that's what
the
people
peak
talk
to me is
about.
because
They
that's all
talk
I've
about the
heard. And so
beginning.
like when the movie to me kind of started to, I don't want to say flatline, but like it started to kind of like,
plateau.
yeah, it plateaued at the beginning and then it kind of dropped off at the end. And so
So you mean
like so-
peaked?
Peaked at the beginning and then it plateaued.
What's
Yeah.
the difference between a peak and a plateau?
Oh.
So a fucking plateau is flat, McKinnon, and a peak is the top of something.
Yeah, so you would say that if
yeah, I guess I said that wrong. What I mean is
Yeah.
it peaked at the beginning and then and I think maybe part of the reason I have that opinion is because we're talking about our first time seeing it. This is my
Yeah.
first time seeing it, and maybe I just have heard, over the last 12 years, I've heard so much about the beginning, and so like when I watched the rest of the movie and it didn't kind of live up to the beginning, I was like, well, kind of boring.
I just don't
Yeah.
think the beginning is even close to the best part of the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
that's cool, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the very beginning might be when they're kids. I do love that part.
That is
That
pretty
is-
cute.
yeah,
that
There
is
was a
awesome.
cute detail when she grabs his hand to like drag him into the other room. He blushes,
Oh,
which
Yeah.
I think is a neat detail.
There's a lot of cute stuff in this
There's
movie.
lots
it's adorable.
there's lots of detail like that.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, the 5 o'clock shadow
Yeah.
that's on his face.
I
at
did
one
make a note
point.
about that.
Yeah.
His hair grows as the movie
Yeah.
goes on. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
great.
It
great.
doesn't happen in any other Pixar movie.
Yeah,
or
I've never
anything.
noticed that
Yeah.
Is that
before.
true? I know like that's not true for like.
I mean, from what I've noticed, at least.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I-
mean,
'cause
most,
I-
of, the,
'cause
yeah,
this
most of the
is-
other
I
ones are
do
either
notice-
animals or toys.
Well, I'm thinking like the Incredibles. Like, I don't know. I guess
No,
Mr.
he-
Incredible.
when
He
he's-
gets
when he's-
looks depressed.
No,
though
like yeah, when he's getting,
sometimes.
I think when he's
He gets bags under
His
his
eyes
He doesn't-
hardcore,
he
dude.
doesn't
Yeah.
like- yeah. But anyway, so I think we're about done with this
well,
one.
and
yeah?
I did want to say though,
Oh, yeah.
I've contentious like point here. I almost think that if you lowered the emotional value of that opening montage, the
The
overall
whole
film
movie
would-
might be better.
Yeah.
it would have hit better.
Put the climax of
I-
the emotions later.
Almost like if you just kept some pieces of it and then like intermixed the
Like maybe take out the baby thing.
I would almost tend to agree because
maybe.
like what if they have a scene where like Russell's like, oh, why are you so mean? And they do like a flashback.
oh, I
and
hate
they do the-
flashbacks. Don't
Yeah.
don't
I
don't
wouldn't
throw
like
those.
I
that
out
agree.
there.
I
either,
fucking
yeah.
also
Okay,
hate
I'm just
flashbacks.
trying to.
Pixar is too good to need flashbacks.
in my head, I'm just trying to figure out how do you work that emotional kind of point of the movie back into the movie. If you're not going to have the beginning, how do you work it back in?
Not all. I'm just saying like take certain pieces of it that are like
yeah.
aren't like elation, abject depression, death. Like I mean like we hit literally every major life milestone of like the worst parts of like some of
Right.
of a couple that couldn't have kids, and then we're like, all right, and now
the movie,
scene.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. I think if there's a way to kind of parcel that out throughout the film, that would have been maybe better to me because I do like I think part of the problem to me is that I feel like I peaked at the beginning and now I'm like waiting for it to get back and it never gets back, and so then I look at the rest of the movie as not being as good because I liked the beginning so much.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, so I just think it's such a unique way. I've never seen a movie do anything like that
Yeah.
before, and I think it's awesome the way they did it. And I just disagree with it peaking there is all,
No, that's
which is
totally cool.
fine. Yeah. I
think
mean,
it
I
peaked-
loved Ellie and her character and everything like that, but I mean, I like Russell more than I like Ellie.
I think
Yeah.
it peaked when the house entered the storm because that's probably the highest point that the house went to.
Probably, you're right, Skeeto.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
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 Technically.
Oh,
But
yeah, in
fucking
terms of
hate you so
altitude, we
much.
did the movie. You're right, McKinnon.
Yeah.
We peaked at that point.
That is, yeah. That
Just
is
really
an
drawing this out.
excellent observation.
I'm just here to correct you guys.
All right, we're done. We're
All
done
right.
with this movie.
We're gonna do what we've been watching lately.
Yeah, so, yeah,
I'll go
Jaden-
first.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I've been listening to Halo books. I think I mentioned that last time when I started the 7th book. It's
Holy fuck!
yeah,
How many books are there?
like 23.
There's
So
a lot.
shit.
There's a lot
Are
of
they
them.
all? I mean, they're all like
They're like different authors.
They're
and
like
stuff.
Different
fan
authors.
fiction, right?
they're all in the same universe. Like they all take place one after the other or
They're all
whatever.
canon.
Anyways, this book takes place like thousands of years before Halo, and it's about like the aliens that fought humans and stuff like that. It's a really dense book. It's very fun. I like books with aliens. I think, or like, it's interesting seeing like cultures and like what humans come up with about alien cultures. It's interesting.
That is cool.
That's
yeah.
all.
That's neat. I mean, just gonna plug Luca, newest Pixar movie. Since we're talking about Pixar movies right now, Luca was fucking amazing.
That's free on
it
Disney
is free
Plus
on
now,
it's
yeah.
free on Disney Plus.
That's
That
not
movie.
free.
It's not the. It's
That's $6.99 a month, right?
I haven't
come
paid
on.
for Disney Plus in 5 months. They have not canceled
okay.
it.
What I mean, what I'm.
I am
so-
not. They
so-
email me
okay.
like every day saying my subscription is going to be canceled, and it just still works.
Okay,
what
so
I-
it's
what I
free
mean
for
by
Jaden.
what I mean by free is it's a part of your
Yeah.
subscription. It's not like because
It's
what,
included.
what
it's not. And
Ryu,
it's not like a 30.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ryu the Last Dragon came out and it was like a premium thing.
I
And
paid
then
for it.
when
It
Mulan
was
was like
stupid.
$30.
and then like when Mulan came out, it was like premium access.
Yeah.
What I mean by free is it's a part of your subscription, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
No, Luca
Included.
is a really good movie. It's great. As far as the animation goes, maybe not Pixar's best, but the storytelling and the emotion in it is
I bet
awesome.
the water though.
The
Like,
water always looks so. How they make it look so good every time in every Pixar movie.
I always wonder when like okay, so this movie, the movies that come out for free or whatever for free, a part of your subscription, like Lady and the Tramp was like kind of their flagship thing that was like it's a part of your subscription. Like, I wonder how the animators and like everyone who's involved with like kind of putting the film together, I wonder how they feel when like I spent so long making this and it's just a part of the
Yeah, straight to
subscription?
video.
Like, are
yeah,
you
straight.
joking?
We're
I don't think
straight
they
to
care.
video.
It's like essentially like straight to DVD or whatever. It's like I wonder how they feel. Like I wonder how the Pixar people at Luca who worked on Luca. I wonder how they feel about like. Are you joking me? Like I worked forever
I don't
animating
think,
this
I
water,
think that
and
more
now it's
people are going to see the movie because of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I wonder if that's maybe an aspect to what they think
Mhm.
too. It's like, well, now my film is really getting out there. But
Yeah.
I think about that. I'm like, are you joking me? Like, no one's even gonna pay to see this. Like, they're
Yeah.
gonna pay $6 a
Can't
month
even go
see
to
this.
yeah,
Like,
can't even go to the premiere of it.
yeah. So I wonder that.
Is it not
yeah.
released in theaters?
No.
Oh my god! I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
isn't that stupid? Well,
That,
I mean,
see, like-
I don't know if it.
But
actually,
also, like, I wouldn't have seen it in theaters.
Yeah.
so.
oh, I absolutely would see it in theaters.
However, I
That'd
do
be
want to
great.
check it out. As of the time we're recording this, my niece is like watching it like right now upstairs.
Yeah.
So I was like walking past and I was like, oh, like I should check this out.
It's
So it does
very
look
good.
neat. It
It's
does,
very
yeah,
good,
yeah.
yeah.
And like I said, like I don't always want to spend my time watching terribly deep movies all the time. Like sometimes I like to kick back. That's why I
Why?
like watching. That's why watching Up was fine with me. Like when we got done with Lighthouse, I was like, let's watch Up. Thank God. So I don't mind. I don't mind kicking back and watching one of those. So I'll throw Luca on. That's
Yeah,
a good
it is-
suggestion.
it is
I'll
very
check that
good,
out.
Yeah, very, very fantastic. Like I said earlier, I believe it is one of the 3 best Pixar movies.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I just finished reading A Story of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. Ted Chiang is the one. Story of Your Life actually is the basis of the movie of Arrival, and Ted Chiang is the author of the short story. And he has a whole collection of speculative sci-fi, our world, but imagine slightly different with, what if you changed like a couple things. Like my favorite one is actually the one about polyagnosia, where it's basically like face blindness, but they've induced a way to make it impossible for humans to determine whether another face has qualities that they would consider beautiful or
Right,
ugly.
yeah.
And I loved the structure of it. So many different perspectives on like what a world like that would look like. And Ted Chiang, even at the end of like the book, talking about his stories, was like, yeah, maybe if they ever offered something like Kali, which is what they called it, like I'd certainly give it a try. And I agree. Like I think it was just a really cool way of thinking about, if we took away the veneer of faces and just looked at who we are, I think the world would be a little bit better of a place. And I
That
love
sounds a
one.
lot to me like an episode of Black Mirror.
That's what speculative sci-fi is.
Okay.
Black Mirror is all speculative sci-fi. Like if we
That makes sense.
if we go 50 years in the future and we have a little grain in our brain that it allows us to relive all of our memories, that would be like,
A little grain in her brain.
yeah,
What?
that's the first episode of Black Mirror.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I've seen one
That's
episode of
not.
Black Mirror, and
Yeah.
I fucking don't like
The first
it. so.
episode is when the guy has to sleep with the pig. That's the first episode.
Are you sure? Maybe it's the second episode then.
Either way, they
But
all
I thought
suck.
the first one was grain.
Doesn't matter. I lent Calvin this book because
I'm sorry. Yeah, shameless plug for the lender of the
Sorry.
book that I read.
no. So I was very excited for you to finish it because I want to do. I just want to do. We'll just do a quick review of this one story I want to talk about. So I lent Calvin this book because I loved it, and then he had mentioned that he was like, "Oh, I want to check it out," and I have it, and I was like, "Take it from me."
Yeah,
and
because
read
I
it.
read Exhalation, and Exhalation is also one of my
It's
favorite
a-
short stories
yeah.
by him.
It's so good. This author is amazing. Ted Chiang. Please look up. He is a Story of Your Life and Others, and Exhalation is 2 collections of his short stories. They're amazing. So I just want to do a tiny review of Hell is the Absence of God. What did you
Oh.
think of that story?
That one was like, okay, so I've recently read C.S. Lewis's Problem of Pain. I'm auditing a philosophy class now that's talking about the problem of evil, and so that was like very much in my wheelhouse of all of these different ways of thinking about it, and it was just one of the line that obviously hit the most was he had seen the heaven's light, and that was supposed to guarantee that he goes to heaven. And then when the line comes up and he dies and his soul rose from his body and God sent him to hell anyway. And I thought that was just, it was such, there was no meaning behind it. There was no and that was the whole point. Like if a God is constantly sending angels to appear
Like-
throughout the world that cause destruction
Yeah,
worth
angels-
in
angels
millions of dollars.
Yeah, angels appear on Earth and they blow things up. Like,
That's
it's
fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it's
and they're
an- it's
basically
an
like
amazing story.
yeah, just
it's
like-
just an amazing story.
they're like the embodiment of the fear of God. You should repent because here, look at I'm destruction incarnate, and that was like, and he dies and he gets sent hell anyway, even though he had seen the light of heaven, which allowed a person to completely see God's love and live within God's love and understand it, but there was no point. Like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be a perfect.
I also love the parts where like there's parts in time where like the surface of the Earth kind of like reveals hell and you can see people suffering below it.
Yeah.
And there's just so much stuff in that book. So I cannot tell you guys how much we should all read this book and let's do a book club episode on this book. I love every short story in this. They're all
Absolutely.
fascinating, and that's why I was very excited for you to watch it. Read it and bring it up, and that's why I want to do a quick, little extended plug for it because it's just amazing. Everyone should listen. Everyone should read it, listen to it, however you can get it. You should just do it. So thank you. And
Story of your
that's
life and others.
yes,
And that's
is
her
the
review
collection.
of the movie Up.
all right. And I have been watching something also. I just finished. Oh my god.
So Connor, what are you reading these days?
So I just finished season 4 of Fargo, which I don't know if anyone else here has watched. Have you guys seen it?
No, I have not.
So
No.
it's sort of kind of based on kind of this movie that came out by the Coen brothers, and it has been on FX, and it's sort of usually like a cop versus criminal sort of drama. This season was a little different because it's sort of like a Italian mob versus like Chris Rock is in this, and he's got like his own gang of guys, and it's kind of over kind of criminal control of Kansas City, Missouri. The show is really good. It's always written very well. Everyone acts super well in it. Of the 4 seasons, this is my least favorite one because it loses that element of like there's usually like the show is full of like kind of odd situations and kind of like happenstance that puts it drives the story into this like very weird kind of violent narrative that it is basically only occurred because just kind of like a weird circumstance that came up. And so someone gets involved because they're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and then all of a sudden this like huge narrative balloons out of that. And
Balloons Up.
yeah, this show had more balloons to me than Up did. But it's still really good. It doesn't have like I think sort of what the first 3 seasons had. Like I said, it has like sort of like a cop who like no one believes in this cop being like, I think there's more to this story than meets the eye, and it's sort of like a cop kind of pursuing, like investigating this crime on their own, and sort of no one's supporting that person, and they kind of figure out what's going on. This season didn't have that because it's sort of like 2 different like warring criminal groups against each other. And that's why I think this one is not the best one, but I totally recommend. Season 1, 2, and 3 are really good. I totally recommend the show. I just think out of all the 4, this is like my least favorite, but Chris Rock is awesome in
I
it.
was going to say, Chris Rock kind of
Chris
sucks.
Rock is... Wow, no, yeah, dude, he's really good in this. He plays like a very violent mob boss in this.
Yeah,
Like, it's
that's
so
cool.
different than... This dude played a zebra in a
'Cause I heard,
DreamWorks
like-
movie. Are you joking me?
Like I heard,
he's,
like
killing
he's in,
people
he's in that
this.
new Saw movie or whatever, and I heard
Yes.
that fucking blows.
Yeah, I don't know anything
Were
about
any
that.
of them good? After
I've
the
never
first?
seen
Yeah.
a single one of them, so I wouldn't know. I'm not watching that garbage.
Yeah, I don't know anything about those because they don't interest me at all. But yeah, Fargo's really good. This is probably like the weakest season, but like the fact that I really like it and I still think it's the weakest should kind of
That's a
make
good thing.
people
yeah.
want to like. The first 3 seasons are so good.
Yeah, kind of like Up.
God.
Starts off great and just
Yeah.
plateaus.
But anyways, I think we're done. I think we're done with this one.
Okay.
I think we wrapped up kind of what we've been doing lately, and I think we wrapped up pretty well.
I think we wrapped up.
I think we're wrapped up.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I'm your host Connor. I have my co-host Jaden and our producer McKinnon
What's up?
and former guest Calvin.
Thanks for having me back.